Hey guys, it's Bobby here. Just wanted to jump in and tell you that registration for our Jigs and Bigs Listeners Tournament for the month of July is officially open. Remember, all you got to do to register is download the Fishing Chaos app. Once that's downloaded, just search Jigs and Bigs. You'll find the July tournament there and you can enter right there. Remember, we always try to put some proceeds toward a great charity. We'll be announcing who that charity is during the tournament on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Make sure to check it out. This is the nationwide multi-species fishing tournament, CPR style, brought to you by Jigs and Bigs. Check it out. All right, everybody, we have a great episode of Jigs and Bigs, but we're not starting out the way we normally do because we're jumping right into a very significant conversation here, a really good one, actually. We've got myself, Sean the Fisherman. We've got Joe Brown from Old Glory Outdoors. We've got Deryk Artioli from Three Bells Outfitters. We've got Bill Rogers from Hookset Hoodlums in the house, and we're gonna have a little conversation about. It's come up on the show before about advantages when it comes to kayak fishing. The main discussion is going to be around the topic of, is it paddle versus pedal? Is that an advantage? We're going to get to it, gentlemen. How are we doing this evening?
Good, man.
Good.
Awesome.
Very good.
Sounds good. So let's go ahead and we'll kind of just jump right into it. Actually, I'm going to throw over to Sean here. He has a better recollection, I think, of how this all kind of came together, how this kind of how we got on the topic to begin with. Because this goes back now, about a month, isn't it? Maybe even a little bit longer. Wasn't it, Bill?
I can tell you exact date. Bill, what date was your knockout matchup?
Maybe about a month, maybe the 8th or something like that.
Yeah. So it's
about a month and a half.
Yeah, so we're talking about this goes back 6 weeks, and it's been kind of festering a little bit, in jokes and short conversations here and there, and we've mentioned it on the show before, but we figured what we do is put the five of us together and sort of have this great conversation. In fact, it was so all over the place that Bass and Brews, the last episode of Alex's Bass and Brews podcast with Paul Roberts, Paul and he got into this back and forth a little bit about it, and it was really great. And I mean, big shout out to them for even mentioning us in that conversation. That was really fantastic. I appreciate that. So why don't we? So we're talking about this conversation that came up a while back with a tournament that Bill was in with Slay Nation, and I mean, it was just a tough day of fishing, right, Bill? Basically.
Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah.
And the phrase when you have a paddle kayak and you've got a bunch of other anglers competing against you with a pedal kayak, essentially there's a performance advantage there. There's an advantage to be had when you've got the ability. You can't keep up. Essentially, is kind of the gist. And that sparked a couple of different points that had gotten brought up from Sean, from some other Hookset Hoodlums pro staffers, from some other tournament anglers. Myself, I jumped in on it, and we figured we'd just kind of get into it and kind of talk about it a little bit. So, Bill, why don't you go ahead and start out by talking about it, what it was. What was your perspective? What did you mean by that when you said it?
Okay, so yeah, a quick rewind is that I had I think 2 weekends in a row had tournaments. One was with Slay Nation, and we fished. It was a big body of water, real super windy day, and I wasted a couple hours checking this spot, and then it didn't come up. I had no success there, so I had to get back to my original spot where I thought I'd be most successful from there. My plan B, which took almost ultimately about 3 hours of my day to get back there. So I was a little bit frustrated from there. It's just getting from A to B, right? Paddling against the wind and the current and the party boaters and all that. And then the following weekend, I did a MAKB knockout, the second round knockout with Steve Hedges. And it had nothing to do with him, actually. Like we both had a limit by like 9 a.m. So it wasn't about time consumption, like of getting pointed to be, but it was more of I had said I need to basically stop putting myself or put myself in better position, as far as I'm going against guys with motors, I'm going against teams, I'm going against boats, two-man teams with the same limit as me, while they have a motor, I have a kayak. And that was, I believe, what sparked it. Like, hey, well, is a motor more advantageous than a paddle? Is a pedal more advantageous than a paddle? Which I think obviously advantages and disadvantages to everything.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And I'll jump in and just kind of, give, because my initial stance was really very basic, was that saying that there's an advantage in one way or another is not saying that it's a shoe-in. It's sure. It's not saying that, you have an advantage in one perspective or one variable in this formula that creates success. It doesn't necessarily mean that formula is going to come together at the end of the day and give you that success. You can have an advantage and still kind of mess up. Like, well, Joe and I had a little advantage. We covered 11 miles on our trip when I looked at it today. And, it didn't help us put any fish in the boat. But was it an advantage? Yeah, we covered a lot more area. We were able to do a lot. So, that's sort of what my perspective was about that. And I fucked up. I actually, said that we were going to talk about this, but Bill, myself, Sean, and Joe, we were out fishing today all together in Western Mass, and we got abused by the sun. Big time. So we're all a little bit cooked right now. I should just go ahead and throw that out there. Like, we're all a little bit like, on the rebound as far as like recovery. Deryk, did you get out and fish today at all?
I went out on... No, I worked today. I got out on Saturday, though.
Nice, fair.
Got absolutely fried on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, the entire weekend, it was pretty brutal. But I want to just mention that, so in case it doesn't, we sound a little all over the place, that's probably why.
Hey, you kind of touched it right there. You guys covered 11. So Joe and Bobby were in, I think, the Titanic today.
Yep.
And they covered 11 miles. So I was in an ascend, and where you think, okay, obviously he has a giant, gigantic, I think a 55-foot bass boat or whatever he has,
jet
with
boat.
A motor
in
a river system is going to, you would assume, right? That's the argument, be more advantageous. However, I was in a spot with, 9 inches of, I'm in 9 inches of water with weeds, and Andrew and I were finding bass there. So there, to a counterpoint to my own argument.
Yeah.
The advantage of having a motor as opposed to, there was no way you guys could have got in there,
Listen, Bill, I told you in the beginning that I would tow you wherever we went, and you turned it down. You could have covered 11 miles. You could have covered 11 miles too.
We had a rope. We could have towed you.
You wouldn't have had a lot of skin left, but you would have covered 11 miles.
I would have done it.
He would have ended up looking like that guy we saw waiting out over by the bridge. That's what he would have looked like.
God, yeah.
A white Yoda.
So, Bobby, when we got this whole conversation started,
yep.
and initially, as all insane conversations do, it initially started on the Hookset Hoodlum Pro Staff thread.
Sean, the Fisherman Pro Staff chat. Thank you.
What did it got? The Delirious Army, I believe it got finally renamed to before you took control and said, okay, it's actually the Hookset.
Yeah, you can't cancel a monster. Sorry, go ahead.
You can't. There's too many monsters on there. That's, these guys, they fish over here, and they hang out in America this time of year, and then they go over to Japan and destroy cities. That's the kind of monsters they are.
It's true.
So when this all started, and you had mentioned, whether it was one term or the other, that you're in the paddle kayak, and anybody who had a different kind of propulsion system may have had an advantage. I immediately kind of came back and said, well, I don't really feel that. I don't feel that at all, because when we start breaking down the term advantage, while I know it's not a shoe-in, you should see something from that. And like for today, in case in point, with Bobby and Joe running all over the entire Connecticut River Valley in the matter of 3 hours, I actually think that was a complete disadvantage because it looked like we needed to find spots where there were fish quickly and stay on them, right? And you guys did, and the two people with paddle kayaks completely outclassed.
Yep.
Two guys in a bass boat and two guys in pedal kayaks. And I did not cover as much ground as Joe and Bobby did. I did some experimenting. So I burned an hour and 15 minutes right off the bat going for smallmouth because I felt like the main river channel might have been more productive with the conditions. Mm-hmm. So I found when Delirious and I went out in the river, we only hit we hit one area with submerged timber that I could see from the shore. We hit, and during that time of hitting submerged timber, I had never hit any part of that river before, any part of that section of the river. I actually have all my experience where you guys went, and I have been hit and miss over the years in that weedy section. So I said, well, what the hell? We all had, we got to disclose this. We all had a $1 bill on the line.
It's true.
The winner, the biggest bass, gets all the $1 bills. The $1 bills had to be signed, dated, and have, I don't know, shall we say, admiring comments on them?
Self-deprecating comments from the giver.
Yes, yeah. And then, a 1-2 punch, one for yourself and one for whoever got it, which I think everyone succeeded in doing. Bill, you did yours visually, which was great.
That was interesting.
But I have to say, just as a disclaimer, that wasn't real.
No, okay. Yeah, it was Monopoly.
No, it was all fake. It was all fake.
So we went out to the main river. Delirious came with me. It was kind of neat the way we did all pair off. And when I was going over that timber, my spider sense was tingling, going, oh shit, this timber's here. The weeds were sparse. I had no drops. It was flat. It was like the desert. And I'm going, oh no. So I told Delirious, I said, look, when we get past this timber, I see 2 rocky outcroppings I want to hit, and there's a third. If the 2 turn up fish, we'll try the third, because now we're 45 minutes in. When I got to the second rocky outcropping, the first one turned up nothing. The second one had a submerged point with it and went straight down to 19 feet. And I said, this is good. On top of that point, it had rocks, it had weeds, and it had timber. And I pulled up an 8-inch rock bass. So that's learning. You know what I mean? That's part of finding fish. Like, okay, I just crossed that off, but that's time I used crossing that off the list of where fish would be productive. So then we went back into the channel, went to the weedy spot, and the only largemouth I hooked into, or Delirious, I don't know if Delirious even hooked into any.
No, I
hooked into. Yeah, I hooked into that one, Bill, when you were coming around a corner in the bend of the river, and you saw the fish jump before you saw me, and that fish jumping was the fish ejecting my lure from its mouth, and then it was followed by a tirade of 4-letter words from me, who you saw. So I gambled on unknown water today, and it did not pay off because you guys went to the weeds. You guys fished the weeds. You guys are, 90% of the videos I see you in. I never see Andrew videos because,
he doesn't know how to fish.
Well, he has his house servants out fishing for him. They set the hook and he reels them in.
Tilapia.
when he's not busy diving into his money vault with Ken. But
Scrooge McDuck.
There you go. So you guys did honestly, you did what you do. You find shallow water that's weedy and you throw worms at it, dude, and it works.
Yeah. And, I saw you guys go that other way.
Yeah.
And I instantly said to Andrew, I'm like, I think we should follow them.
Really?
Because I'm like, I know, because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking we need deeper water. It was just so hot already. But then I'm like, I'll try the weeds for cover. And truthfully, you saw me. I went down. I went south from there. I went through that channel because I wasn't getting on them. I lost one early in the morning, and I didn't get anything till towards the end of the day. But yeah, you're right. I just went with familiar.
I literally made my decision on going right or left off that ramp, right to the main river or left into the weeds, based on the amount of recreational traffic I saw, and particularly what happened at the ramp, which we'll get into a fuck this guy segment down the road over what happened at the ramp in the morning.
Did someone give birth over there?
Oh, you didn't even hear about it. You'll hear about it. We'll explain when we get off the air. But no, there was some, how should we call this?
Questionable, what's the etiquette?
Yeah, questionable. I would call it big boat pouting, but whatever. What do I know? But we'll get into that another time. So yeah, we went right. We gambled. You guys went left into the weeds. The fish were in the weeds. We only had 3 hours to fish, all of us, except for Andrew. And I actually think that made a difference. So if you want to talk advantages today, I think the advantage was simply time on the water.
Yep.
Did Andrew relay to you if he caught any fish before we all got together?
He did, yeah. He caught one really nice one earlier.
So what he did was he unknowingly or knowingly, one of the two, he eliminated water. He found fish, whether he stumbled into them or said, I'm going for the weeds. Let's see what happens. He was on fish before we even got there. So that, when it comes to, if you want to use the word advantage, I even drew an awesome little pie chart. I've been talking about this stupid pie chart for a month and a half, right? I'm going to put this up on the screen.
Oh, it's a wiener.
Yeah,
guys.
it is.
Anyone who's not watching, it's a wiener.
Well, hold on. Let's do this right then.
I feel like this is a good pie chart, but I feel like there needs to be a lot more.
Oh,
there
God,
we go.
it's huge.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So really, really simple, right?
Looks like it was a sketchy circumcision, though, man. I feel bad.
Well, first
Poor
time.
little bastard.
What we're looking at here is I made a pie chart that.
Honey, get the cigar cutter. Sorry.
I'm not showing for the listening audience. I actually my pants are up. So,
No, this is a
Not too
drawing, an
subtle.
artist's rendition.
So this little pie chart is a circle, and it's almost split in half, but it's not directly in half.
Yeah.
Half of it says 51% angler skills and experience. And the other side of it says 1 through 49% is what I write: rod, reel, line, lures, boat, and propulsion. It's just it's in my opinion, it's always going to come down to the angler. Always. It's always going to, because I've seen it too many times where if you're fishing against someone in a tournament and they have experience on a lake, all right, they're probably going to do well because they don't have to eliminate water like you do. All right. So they're saving time that way. Are you saving time with a boat being able to try and eliminate water that way? Yes. But that experience of whether it's one trip out prior or, even 3 hours before everybody else gets there.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right.
That angler, like I said, how do I describe this? I've been in enough tournaments to see kayaks with paddles go up against kayaks with pedals and kayaks with power and John boats with trolling motors. So you've got a wide array of gear there. All right. Obviously, the John boats can carry more. The kayaks are going to be able to carry less. The motorized kayaks are going to be faster than the pedal kayaks. But what it always comes down to is, and I should probably put in there, there's going to be a sliver of luck for everybody. There's always, you never know what's going to happen. There's always some portion of somebody's going to hit a big fish that they didn't know was there. So, you know what I mean? I don't know how to quantify that. Maybe I'll put luck in the 1 through 49. I will. I'll put luck in the 1 through 49%.
The one thing I want to throw in there to what Sean's saying that I feel like needs to be addressed is not that it isn't about the gear. Like ultimately that pie chart that you have is based on experience and gear, for lack of a better term, because you're lumping in line with motors and things like that. So you have gear and you have this. I don't think the equation is that easy. And I think we need to address that. I think that when it comes to tournament angling, that you have to consider experience. You have to, and that includes pre-fishing, things like that. Like what do you give the due diligence? Your preparedness. I think it also has to do with time management. Like how long are you beating a horse before you decide to move on to your secondary or third stretch plan? How do you handle that pressure? So I feel like that's a major player in competitive fishing. I know in conversations that I have had with other people who are tournament anglers, time management comes up a lot. I'll say this much. It comes up more when you're inexperienced, I think, than if you're an experienced angler. But I do feel like that's a major thing. And I feel like really when it comes down to time management, if we're talking about pedal, paddle, or power, I feel like that is where it makes the biggest difference, is in how much can you mess up your time management? Because if you've got a paddle, you got to really be on it to make a decision and make a move. I'll give you an example. Joe and I today found fish at every single spot we stopped on. We got bit everywhere. we couldn't get them to bite, and we made a decision to move out of the main river back into that oxbow so that we could fish in those weeds where we're like, listen, the smallies up here, they're not biting. You know, we could see them. We had them on the graph. They were biting every single bait that I threw out there. And I mean, we knew that we were on them. It just wasn't happening. So we had to make a decision to go back down. So we definitely found fish. And then when we got into the weeds, we found fish again and just couldn't get them to necessarily bite. Now, if we were in pedal kayaks, would we have been able to do that in the 3 hours that we had to fish? Find fish in all those situations? No. I think it's just that simple, that there's no way, you know?
But yeah, in a spot that you don't know, you probably would have just done what I did. I have no familiar. I mean, I fished the Connecticut River, but I've never fished it up there
that high. Yeah.
So I don't know this spot. I know that the current's against me. I know that I can't go down this way because I see all the boats. I see, the woman giving birth at the launch. I'm going to avoid that area. I'm going to go to what I know. I'm going to pads. I'm going to grass. I was going for trees down. And then again, it didn't work for me. So that's when I moved it. Okay, I got to figure something else out. But yeah, you're right. And to piggyback on Sean, you said this that day that I brought it up, by the way, like, I think has a lot less to do with your paddle or your pedal or your motor than it does to be prepared. And I'm a first year tournament angler. I've fished my whole life. And it's my first year in tournaments. And now and I always, Sean, I pick your brain all the time. I live by like, okay, I need that first fish. Okay, got my first fish. Now I need a limit. Okay, I got my limit. Now I need to upgrade. And I need to pick apart my water. And none of that shit matters if you have no idea where you're even fishing. So pre-fishing, preparing, that's 100% of it.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of what you have, if you have spots, of course, it's easier to have a plan B or C that's farther away if you have a motor. But it means nothing if you're not prepared anyway. So,
yeah.
And I think, since we've gotten to work with Three Bells, and, Deryk, you're going to jump in at any time because I'm going to go in a kind of a different direction. This is going to seem, I've actually been wrestling, I think, and this is what I asked Bobby to hold off on this whole discussion for the past month and a half on. I have said numerous times on the podcast, I was in a paddle kayak. Getting the pedal kayak has been like getting the hammer in the Legend of Zelda games. Because you open up half the map. You do. There is something to be said about that kind of time management. But the time management that I see and I think is way more important, if you you're limited, okay? Like I did for all last year. I know I was limited with a paddle kayak. I'm not fishing the entire body of water that I'm fishing where the pedals and the powers are gone. I have placed high and or won tournaments by eliminating water knowing I can't get there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so
huge.
So, okay, you guys are all going to the northwest corner because it's early in the year. I can't do that, but maybe I know one lake in particular. I'm going to fish one that has kind of a northwest corner and a cove. And I killed fish with jerkbaits there and won a lot of money last year in one tournament or 2 years ago, whatever it was. So I said, okay, I've got to cut this off because I can't paddle that far. Like the Candlewood tournament. I could have done the same exact thing that I did, minus the carp, in a paddle kayak. That's how close I was to the launch. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, it's just planning. Like all these guys are like, I'm gone. Go ahead. And all day what I did was, if you know in preparation, and this is where the time management, you don't have to worry about it as much when you're fishing because you've done the homework beforehand. I fished in a middle area of the lake. Okay. We launched a bunch of kayaks in the south, and then at 6 o'clock in the morning, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, a bass boat tournament started. And you know what I saw all day? Nobody stopped in the middle. I finished 19th both days, and I added up all the totals for the 2 days. Mm-hmm. There were only 10 anglers that caught more fish than me or more length than me in 2 days because everyone was zipping around. I went to one spot that was close by and hammered the fuck out of it because I felt fish were there. And then I got one fish and then I got two fish. And I said, they are here. It's just a touchier bite for what I'm doing. And I played to my strengths and stayed there. But again, I could have done it in the pedal kayak. And honestly, Deryk, when I talked to you the day after the tournament, when I did have that rudder issue before I addressed it fully the next week, that rudder issue and, losing an hour to a goddamn carp, had I had one more fish, things might have been different on day two.
Yeah.
Well, it was that close where one decent fish would have put me possibly in the money, if not up on stage holding one of those checks. And that's neither here nor there. But what I'm getting at is I had a paddle kayak, and it didn't last year. It didn't affect the outcomes up against pedaled and powered. This year I have the pedal kayak, and I still play by that game, although I just extended my boundaries a little more. I'm managing my time that way. Mm-hmm. Now, when you said you guys found fish today,
yep.
If you found fish, I don't know what you guys did, but I made note. I said to Delirious, I'm like, they're back quick. Like, cause I know you guys were going north, and I'm like, how'd they come back so quick? Because if I was there and I would have found fish, I probably would have given that more time, because one of the things that experience and skills that anglers are doing this for a long time build up is the clock, the quarterback clock in the head for those people that have played football.
Yep.
Quarterback snaps the ball. You've got what, 2 to 3 seconds before you've got a lineman in your shorts. It's the same thing with fishing. If you're not there, if you, I might give a spot 45 minutes if I see fish there, maybe an hour. And if they're not, if I've run through my grid of lures in my head, like, okay, I've done sinking, vertical, horizontal, dark, light, natural. I'm going through this whole thing, vibrating, non-vibrating. This is what I do for every time I hit a spot. If something hasn't happened after like 45 minutes, then I say, okay, now it's on to plan B.
Yep. And that's similar to how the way we did it, right, Joe?
Yeah, so I will say, not that I'm making up an excuse, but I was having some trolling motor issues.
Disadvantage.
So typically, when Bobby and I were marking those fish, we knew they're smallies. They're sitting under those pylons. I've done a lot of research in that spot, and I would have worked the shit out of that spot. Just like you said, I would have threw the kitchen sink at them. But, with having those trolling motor issues on a newer boat, I'm not going to say the name of my boat, but don't buy one. So I just couldn't, we started off before I had the issues, we were just circling that pylon. You know what I mean? And that's, we were working, there's timber hung up on the pylon. We looked at each other. We're like, holy shit, like this is perfect. And, and unfortunately, I couldn't, the motor couldn't hold that boat anymore with that current. And I didn't want to be banging up against those pylons. So we tried one more spot that, the current was a little less, and we worked a lot of shade, a lot of overgrowth. And, again, we saw a lot of carp in there, got a couple bites. And again, it kind of came, we saw the beached whale, waiting in the river. But yeah. So I made that decision to, I was like, Bobby, I'm having some issues with this motor. I was like, let's bring it back into the oxbow and we'll just beat the hell out of that, that weed line. And for the rest of the time, that's what we did. We just, we worked that, that L shape, we worked those pads where it takes that right. And, we threw a lot of shit at them.
We did.
We were both getting hits, who knows, it could have been anything from friggin' bluegill to bowfin, we don't know, but, unfortunately we just didn't get the hook up.
Yeah. Which, and I like the fact, Sean, that you put that little luck element in there, because there's always a little sliver of luck. You could be in a tournament and the sun shines on a dog's ass that day, and then boom, it could just be your day.
You could be out with Andrew and it's just his day. Bill's smiling. Luck. We immediately when we got back from all this, Bill and I just immediately started jumping on Andrew on that thread. It was phenomenal.
It was impressive.
Just playing off each other.
I gotta say, he takes it like a champ. He really does. I appreciate that about him.
No one's reading him that.
He says he can't read.
Is that why we had to read them all off after we wrote them?
Yeah.
So to kind of piggyback on something Sean said, and I have a bigger kayak than the rest of you. So being a big boat guy, I will say, listening to, when Sean said, you see a lot of this, and I think that's kind of a disadvantage to where, if there is I will say that if you're having a tough time in a big boat tournament, you spend a lot of time just burning gas, trying to, find spots and whatnot. And it wastes a shit ton of time. And until you stop and, and a lot of people don't until you stop and gather yourself and be like, hold on, we need to pick a spot. We need to break down every inch of this spot, and you see it a lot to where, people, flip twice, cast twice, maybe change the boat once. And then next thing you know, it's friggin' trolling motor up and they're balls to the walls doing 60 down the lake, just burning gas. So, and maybe and I've done it. Maybe that's kind of a, you think us big boat guys maybe think that's an advantage, but maybe it's a disadvantage, and I didn't really think of it that way until Sean said something.
One of the people I talked to about this when I was really trying to get a hold of how I felt about the word advantage, right, was Tim Jacks. Because one of the when we got going on the Hookset thread, one or two guys did jump in with, oh yeah, bass boat's an advantage over a kayak. It is because you can carry more gear.
Yep.
Or is it a disadvantage because you can carry more gear because now you have more choices and lures? Again, that's something else I pride myself on. We've talked about where I'm
same here. Yeah.
I'm extremely focused on the lures I use because, my own reasons. But I don't feel I have to, buy every color of everything. I figure, I'll buy a lot of different shapes and a lot of different vibrations and a lot of different, but I stay as far as like colors, I'm really honed in on what I use, particularly in the Northeast. So when I was kind of mulling over how to approach this and what does an advantage mean? I asked Tim Jacks. I gave Tim a call. And Bobby, I didn't tell you this. This is news to you. And I said, how do you feel about that? And he goes, no, he said, it's the angler. It's the angler is going to be the main source of the advantage. You're always going to have some sliver of luck. Maybe somebody has the great day. Everything goes right for them.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or, maybe I'm making it sound like it's an extreme, but maybe a guy who finishes high a lot, but never breaks that top one or whatever, never wins. He has a day where he finds those fish and he comes in first. So everything went right. But Tim said, no, he goes, it's always the angler. And he goes, we've had tournaments where right off the bat, whistle goes, shotgun launch go, and one or two boats, bam, their fucking outboard dies. They're stuck with their trolling motor all day. So they're near the ramp. And he goes, those boats win a lot more than you would think.
Yeah.
He goes, it's amazing because they're forced to slow down and really pick apart one place. I mean, it's not like, Candlewood's for a great example. Boats were spread out everywhere.
Yeah.
And how many 19 and 20 inch smallmouth came out of that lake that day? It's not like, it was a race to one spot. There were fish on drops. There were fish on flats. There were fish on timber. There were fish everywhere. It's just a matter of, finding, I don't know, I guess the spot where more of them were concentrated. That was the big thing. You know what I mean? And there were so many places where they were concentrated. Everybody caught fish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's up to the angler, but there were some anglers that, you're always going to have that one guy who's just learning or watched too many videos from the wrong person. And they're out in a 30-foot lake, whipping a whopper plopper in the middle of, around jet skis, around me getting towed around by a carp. That probably isn't going to increase your chances. And you hope that person learns from that experience. And then they don't do that next time. Maybe then they move in with their whopper plopper. And then maybe next year, the whopper plopper doesn't get brought out till summer. You know what I mean? Maybe they start to fool around. And that's the building of that experience. But I just think that no matter what line, and I did put line, rod, reel, lures, all of that stuff is going to be different slivers for different people.
Yep.
It's not ever going to be the same. I just think the experience, even by 1%, is going to weigh in heavier than all of the other stuff combined. You know what I mean? Because when you think about all of us, Bobby, you use a lot of braid for line, right?
Oh, no. Only on one. Well, no, basically on any spinning combo that I use, which I've got two, and then on my frogging rod, that's it. Everything else is all fluoro.
Yeah. So I use one rod with braid, and then my two spinning rods are fluoro and mono.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You and I don't have problems catching fish with fluoro and mono or I don't, you don't have a problem with braid. I don't have a problem with, we're doing different things.
It's preference.
Joe, what are you, what are you all spun up with, Joe?
I'm kind of the same way on all. I only have two rods that are braid. Everything else is fluoro.
Okay.
Except for I'm sorry, jerk baits. I use mono.
Yeah.
But the braid is just my top water stuff. My frog rod and my spook and whopper ploppers, all that crap. But I tried the braid to leader stuff, and I just got sick of tying leaders. You know what I mean?
That I feel a lot of people are like that. I still have no issue with that. That's part of the reason why I leave braid on my spinning gear. But that's just a preference thing. Although, I mean, there's some top water stuff where I use that medium heavy spinning combo for, and it's fantastic. Like I love throwing a walking bait, with that. It's awesome,
Look at Bill. He uses all that shit that like glows in the dark and lights the water up entirely. I mean, he catches fish like one or two. He's caught one or two fish on it, but I mean,
every cast like him is like a Tiesto show, basically.
You guys, Joe, you just stole my punchline because I was going to say, and Bill, we know you use braided pubes for line. On to you, Deryk.
That's gross.
So you know what happens is every time he throws his line out, it's like a deer caught in the headlights. It's just so bright they don't know what to do.
I snag them.
Bill, what are you going to say? I'm sorry, I interrupted with a disgusting comment.
I have taken your advice. And although I do perfectly fine with high vis line, I don't have these giant fish coming in. So I have switched all of my same line, but switched to clear line. I don't want to go ahead. Yeah.
So we've really, Deryk, I wanted to jump into you. God, that sounds horrible. Deryk, I wanted to get you involved in the conversation because you have a different perspective with the amount of time you spend on the salt.
Yeah.
So dig in, man. We've talked a lot. So, you got a bunch of opinions. Hit us with some funny shit.
So I have one question for Bill to start off. Bill, what's the largest body of water you fished a tournament for so far?
3 acres.
Beach. I don't know the size of it, but I think it was Beach Pond.
Okay, yeah. So I know Beach Pond. So you only went from the one launch. So have you fished any tournaments with multiple launches?
I did. So far, I've only done 3 for Slay Nation: Beach Pond, Long Pond, Glasgow, and for tournaments, that was it, I think.
Okay, so this is my first year really being around bass fishing tournaments, and one of the biggest things that I have seen doesn't matter what kind of kayak you have, whether you're pedal, you've got a trolling motor on the front, whatever. The number one thing I see is people looking to optimize their time on the water to get to that one spot. I know guys who will literally look for the smallest sliver of public land that they can launch from because they don't want the limitation to be the time to get to wherever they're going. So while I think the ability to be able to cover more water faster plays a role, I've come to see that it doesn't matter how you're getting there. If you can find any way to get yourself so you're spending less time on the water to get to that spot, the better. I noticed that a lot with Cayuga, where we had a ton of people that you could have launched and within KBF rules where you could launch for free at one spot, but there was another spot probably about a third of a mile down the road where it was $15 to park for the day and launch from there. And so many more people launched from there because that third of a mile meant you were getting to your spot so much faster. Gotcha. And it didn't matter if they had trolling motor, pedals, whatever. So kind of going back, I think that's where planning for your realistic expectations and your realistic possibilities for the day. You can't plan accordingly to say, I'm going to cover 4 miles of shoreline today in a paddle kayak. You have to try and find your advantage. And especially if you're in a paddle kayak, it might be trying to find that one sliver of public land where you can park on the side of the road and within the rules of the trail series that you're a part of, being able to launch on that side of the road. If that means that's getting you to that spot that you normally wouldn't be able to get to, it's a competition. What do most people who compete try to do? We try and find the way to make the rules work to our advantage, right, without breaking said rules. So I think that's kind of a different way to look at the situation at hand is that it's not maybe for a lot of these people, it's not what kind of kayak they have, it's how are they using their time off the water to maximize their time on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that a lot in with saltwater fishing that I do. There's one beach that I launch from all the time, and there's a lot of really good fishing in like the local area. But every time I'm trying to go out saltwater fishing, it's trying to find where can I get on the water to the closest spot to that, so I can spend less time trying to get there and more time actually fishing there. In saltwater, it's a little bit different, obviously, because you're depending on the day you're chasing birds or depending on what kind of fishing you're trying to do. But I've noticed that a lot in freshwater guys. If you can find any way to get on the water closer to that spot you want to be and not have to use your pedals or your trolling motor or your paddle for more time, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'll even admit, like, I mean, I don't have ego in this. Before I even had the first tournament, it was my first year competing, like I said, and I was like, do I go when I fish and I'm just having fun? We're just on fish, right? So it's like just having fun. You don't think anything of it. When I signed up for a tournament, this trail, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna smash this fucking thing. Like there was no doubt in my mind. And then you go and I get my ass handed to me, and I have a horrible day. And then the weather is bad. And then it's like everything. And like Sean said, or like you said, it's even when I made the comment about the advantage of the motor, even since then my opinion changed. Where now I'm like, I'm going to these bodies of water that I'm going to be fishing for the rest of this trail, and I'm putting in the work, and I'm finding my spots, and I'm time management in my head, and I'm learning as I go. And I don't expect to be winning these tournaments, but I know what I need to do now, or where I need to go, where my best chances are, because timing is part of it. And that's just what it is. Whether you're pedaling, paddling, have a motor, it doesn't matter. So I'm learning as I go with it. And I agree with you 100%. It's about spots and time management and where can you optimize, so yeah, I agree with you 100%.
As somebody who sucks at fishing, I will tell you that when I made the change from a paddle kayak to a pedal kayak, I actually found that I started fishing worse after the fact, because you have that freedom, kind of, you know that you can move and cover more water, and you don't spend the time to really work each area that you go to, because you go and you're like, all right. It's kind of like what Joe was saying, you make a couple casts, you're not seeing anything, all right, pick it up and we're moving. Whereas I think you use that time that you have in a paddle kayak to sit there and really learn how to break down those areas, really know when is it time to pack up and move versus when do I need to kind of sweat it out for another 5, 10, 15 minutes to hopefully get that bite. I think that is far more beneficial than what people think the difference is going to be to get into a paddle or into a pedal kayak. And I think even more so when you start getting your trolling motor, or a motor on a kayak in general, because then it's even more, it's zero effort on your part. So I think as much as having those things are creature comforts and aid you in making it an easier time to fish tournaments and things like that, I don't think they necessarily give you an advantage, especially if that's how you're first getting in, because you think I can just do so much more with that time that you don't actually spend the time you should working on those specific areas.
Yeah. I mean, a case in point, like I said, I wasted all those hours going back. When if in hindsight, even just a month later, I'm thinking, it's not like the water was calm when I went out. Like, why did I even go that far? Like I should have just stuck to what I know. Like, just like, not that today was super successful, but just like today, like I don't know that body of water. Let me just fish my familiarity where I'm good at getting on fish or whatever. But not to like try to take this time on a podcast to teach me how to pedal kayak, but with Sean and Deryk, when you guys, Joe was talking about his trolling motor went out today. So finding the time to like try to stick to one spot to fish for these smallies that he's marking. Do you find it a lot easier do you guys find it a lot easier to like hold your position better with your like a pedal kayak? Like, okay, I could back pedal, I could forward, like just to maintain your position, or what?
I can tell you from this year, this has been a learning year for me with the pedal kayak. And the one thing I have learned that is really sticking with me is windy days. I did not expect this to happen. With a paddle kayak, and I actually, the show's coming on tomorrow, but the show Bobby and I just recorded, we talked about my past weekend with Chris Tabari. Chris came out and used my Native Ultimate. I was in the Slayer, in the pedals, the Propel Slayer, and he had problems going into the wind because you're paddling into the wind. The boat's always trying to turn. A pedal kayak, the weight's in the back. So you kind of act like a sail, and the ass end just lines up. You're always facing into the wind. Now, this is kind of weird, but whenever pedal or paddle, whenever I throw jigs or vibrating search lures, so like jigs, plastic, stuff like that, stuff that's got a vertical descent, I actually like facing into the wind because the wind pushes me back and tightens that line without me. It takes the slack out without me having to do anything.
You get that slow drag.
Yeah, it just straightens it out. So you're able to sometimes feel that bite because you've casted. By the time the lure hits the water, you're already 2 feet back from where you threw that lure. Right. So now you're getting 2 feet of line slack pulled out. It's not yanking it. It's just subtle. You know what I mean? And when it still drops, now you that slacks out and you can feel that. And honestly, maybe last week or the week before, I had a conversation with Cody Van Zant about what I do with jigs. And, Cody, I don't know if he was on Grampy's medication that morning, but he was like, that is some profound shit, Sean. Everything was very profound. Yeah. So, but when I fish search lures, crankbaits, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, swim jigs, if I'm drifting and the boat has now turned sideways like a sail, I will cast across the wind or with the wind. And I think that slows the lure down and keeps it in the strike zone longer because now it's creating slack. You know what I mean? With the pedal kayak, it has been phenomenal for my jig fishing because the boat just lines up and does what I want it to do. My God, when I try to go back or go sideways with it, the back end is always trying to kick to face into the wind. So now I'm trying to figure out a way to make this work for my search bait fishing because in wind, the kayak is not, it's a matter of figuring out how to make the kayak do what I want it to do under those circumstances. And I'll figure it out. But I'm even to the point, if I have to, my native ultimates have a sliding,
anchor trolley.
An anchor trolley. Thank you, Deryk. So I actually bought a drift sock. And I had a drift sock for a boat the size of Joe's that I would drop in, and it would slow me down in my ultimate that it was like I was barely moving. And then I could really work search lures. I have 2 of them at home, and I felt so bad because I said to Chris, he was getting blown all over the place. I said, dude, please tell me I put the yellow drift sock behind you. And he looks behind me. He said, nope, there's nothing here. I said, man, I screwed up, dude. Sorry. Because I don't use that kayak anymore. The parts have been thrown all over my garage. You know what I mean? And that's what helps. But that's what I'm learning with the pedal kayak. Like it has increased my ability to do what I want to do with jigs. And I have to learn how to overcome the wind now with the way the physics are to throw my search baits effectively in my horizontal presentations. It's learning. You're always learning. So that's where I'm at with it. I hope that answers your question. Everybody could be different. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I know what I was doing in my old kayak. So I have my reference point. And out of the 2 ways, the horizontal and the vertical presentations, the vertical presentation, home run, I'm good. That is just lined up and actually gotten easier. The other way, I have to figure out how to make it easier.
So I think as much as the ability to move and deal with the wind more is definitely, you have favors with a pedal drive. I think the biggest advantage comes to having the rudder in the wind. Oh, yeah. As much as, that pedal drive is nice, I find myself, especially freshwater fishing, standing and letting the wind kind of take me, down the bank or wherever I'm trying to fish. But I constantly find myself all slightly change with the rudder direction more than anything else to help keep me in line with the bank or wherever I'm fishing and kind of know, okay, I know this wind's going to push me. I want to stand and fish for whatever presentation I'm doing. I'm going to cover this water. I'm going to cover it a bunch of times because the wind's not letting me just hone in on one spot, which is fine. But that rudder and the ability to change how my kayak is oriented based on where the wind is blowing makes far more of a difference as opposed to, if I was able to go and pedal against against the wind to try and stay where I want to be. Like Sean said, you're much better off doing like an anchor trolley at that point. And the great part is you can put an anchor trolley on a kayak. They're about $45, and you can do a stakeout pole, and you basically have your own power pole then at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an 8-foot pole that you're jamming into the sediment on the bottom. If you do that, it doesn't matter where or what kind of kayak you have. If the wind is your biggest thing that's causing an issue, that right there is a roughly $100 investment that now eliminates that issue, or at least mitigates it far more compared to what you would have in, other situations. But I don't find myself trying to go against the wind very often in my pedal drive. If anything, I kind of let the wind take me where it wants to kind of take me within reason. And when I get to that point, the end of that drift where that's where I want to stop, it's far more convenient for me to be able to easily get back to that top position I want to start working again. But I never find myself sitting there constantly trying to pedal against that breeze. I find that if I try to do that, it takes away from the fishing because I'm trying to focus too much on trying to stay in that one spot that I want to stay in, as opposed to actually paying attention to the cast that I'm making and the retrieve that's occurring.
It's funny. It's funny, Deryk, that you say that, because that's how I fished a lot yesterday. I just basically said, okay, well, the wind is blowing in this one direction. I keep getting blown this way. So I'm going to paddle out to where I want to start along that bank and orientate myself to where I can be set up. And I just kept the paddle across my lap, basically. And as the wind would blow, I just dropped the paddle in to sort of push me against, reposition where I was, make a small adjustment, and then just keep working the bank. And I was able to really cover a lot more that way instead of like fighting with the wind so much. Like, you just kind of like make it work. I'd get to a spot where maybe I was getting some bites and I would just reposition and go back so then I could drift back over it. And it sort of worked out because it was almost like the fish sort of reset in that amount of time that it took me to come back.
Yeah. And I think it's good too, because if you're not getting anything on those first couple passes, It's not like you've just thrown, it's not like you just pitched 30 times in the same 10-foot area.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're coming back with a different lure after a couple drifts, you can sit there and go, okay, screw it. I'm going to try throwing something different and see if this gets any, different reactions. And I think I take a lot of that from saltwater fishing, because when you're out in the Sound, I mean, I know people who drop anchor. I don't mess with it. I'm like, you know what? If I want to go and I'd rather take a drift and roll with the current and everything else, as opposed to, especially with the boat traffic that you deal with out there, I'd much rather just kind of roll with the waves. And then if I have to get back, I find a spot, so be it. If it's a shorter drift, it's a shorter drift. So I think I've kind of tailored that more into my freshwater fishing, and that, I just kind of, I let the wind do what it wants to do, because at the end of the day, I can't control the wind, but I can control how I fish. And it turns into, sometimes it might mean that I'm fishing sideways out of my kayak. It might mean, there's been times where I will literally turn around and kneel in my seat and I'm fishing out the back. It's not convenient, but it means that I'm able to fish in some rather adverse conditions. But I think most of that is in favor of the rudder and the ability to sit there and to turn the rudder ever so slightly. And next thing you know, it's almost like you have a trolling motor on the front of your kayak and you're just covering a ton of water.
Billy could just put a power pole on the back of your kayak.
Yeah, but that's a couple $600.
But even that, getting back to just coming around
Sean's
with advantage.
Power pole.
I am. I power down pierogi and kielbasa like no man. But getting back to that, even with all the things we're talking about. Thank you, Bobby. Getting back to that, with all these things we're talking about, it still comes down to experience. You know what I mean? That angler's experience of using their gear, whether it's a line, their boat, and like I said, when it comes to these competitions, Bobby, remember, was it was last month? We had just finished the East and West with Shakem tournaments.
Yep.
I made one comment. Nelson finished first. He had a great day on West with Shakem. East with Shakem. I fished with Joe DeDeo.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe said possibly the most disheartening thing to me right at the beginning of the day. Man, I love this place. I fished it all the time in high school. I always have a good time here. And I went, I just dropped Joe DeDeo, one of the best fishermen in Massachusetts, into his home fucking pond without knowing it. I felt bad.
Disadvantage.
I felt, yeah, that's where, because of his not only current experience, but current experience on that body of water. And he finished second, I think. He finished right behind Nelson. Nelson had a killer day, and Joe went out and did what he had to do, knock in second. And
so,
you know,
I could actually piggyback on this. Like, I've only been, this is my, third season doing tournament stuff. And this is Bill's first. So, I mean, him and I both are still brand new. And this entire time, we're just playing catch up. All the guys in my series have been doing the series forever. And they fish the same exact bodies of water almost every single year. So they've been fishing. And, you know, I have the disadvantages of where typically these bodies of water they're not. Everyone has the bodies of water that they're comfortable with.
Yep.
None of these are mine. Most of them are bodies of water I never even fished. And I don't have the opportunity to pre-fish 2, 3, 4 times before, you know, because life. And so a lot of times, you know, I'm going in blind. And I know, Bill, you know, where you had that your knockout there, and I told you, I was like, that place will either make you or break you, and it's one of those places. I have full confidence if Bill had the opportunity to fish that place, you know, a few times beforehand, the results would have been a lot different. But that's a tough body of water to go into blind, and any body of water is you know, tough when you go in blind, because you have these, you know, I have guys that have been doing this for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And, you know, I'm just a new buck who's been doing it for a couple. And, you know, so I guess that's a big aspect of experience as well, you know, just at tournament fishing in general.
No, yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, me too. I mean, even that body of water with the that you talked about, you said it's going to make you break you. I mean, listen, like I said, we both had our limits, and that, to his credit, Steve, he messaged me like, I was like, yeah, you pick. We got this spot. I just go off of advice from you guys because I don't know those bodies of water out there. We're trying to get somewhere even. And he said, is it okay to, like, are we pre-fishing? I'm not going to say no because I can't do it. So I'm like, yeah, of course. Go ahead. Just do what you got to do. I won't be able to do it. And then,
see, Bill, you can say no in that tournament.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
If you say, dude,
that's because of me, you know.
Yeah, but you can say that. Say you can say that, like, dude, I'm not going to have time to pre-fish. We cool with not pre-fishing, you know. And it's a give and take. And he can say, yeah, but I get to pick the pond, or yeah, but I get to pick the times. You know, it's a push and pull with it, and you'll learn that. That's experience over the years. Yeah, right. You know, it's a push and pull with the contestants. But you know, I digress.
Even when he said it, I mean, great dude, Steve Hedges. Look him up. He's killing it in MAKB right now, actually. But he goes, yeah, I went there. I got them all in the early, and then I didn't have anything all day. But they're right where I had them. Right where I pre-fished. They were the same spots, and I'm like, that's nobody's fault but mine. Mm-hmm. He was able to prepare, you know, and that's huge. But yeah, it's all. I think a huge, more than 51% is being prepared for it. Pre-fishing, doing your homework, having a game plan, time management.
Yeah. I honestly, I think there is no substitute for experience like that. Yeah. Experience has the ability to trump everything else. You know, experience has the ability, I think, to even trump the luckiest of lucky days. You know, I mean, no matter what, I think that's the reality. Guys, let's take a quick short break here. And then I kind of want to throw a scenario out after we come back from this break, specifically regarding Sean the Fisherman's experience on Candlewood, and something that happened there specifically that struck a chord in my mind once this conversation kind of started coming up about a month and a half back. Guys, we'll be back in just a minute or so when we hear from this short message from our good friends, hey, Joe, at Old Glory Outdoors. Jigs and Bigs is proud to announce we're being supported by Old Glory Outdoors. They're a veteran-owned company that carries fishing and hunting gear. Plus, they're highly active in supporting veteran organizations and charities. Old Glory is an authorized dealer of favorite rods, FX rods, Guggen baits, X-Zone lures, Sixth Sense, and many more. There's a brick-and-mortar store located in East Brookfield, Massachusetts, but you can also order online at oldgloryoutdoors.com. They ship anywhere in the lower 48 states or order order online and pick up at the store. When you order, use the promo code JIGS and BIGS, and you'll save 10% off your complete order. Plus, you'll help support the show. Make sure to check out the apparel line called OGO Gear while you're there. Old Glory Outdoors believes in the slogan, "Start 'em young," to keep kids away from screens and enjoying nature. They've got a full array of live bait too. Check out oldgloryoutdoors.com and use the promo code JIGS and BIGS. Save some money and gear up now. Make it sound so serious with segment number 2 here. It sounds like some kind of like breaking news headline thing, but we're back, guys. We've got Sean the Fisherman, myself. We got Hookset Hoodlums' own Bill Rogers, Wild Bill Fishing. We got Deryk Artioli from Three Bells Outfitters, and the one and only Joe Brown from Old Glory Outdoors. We're talking about advantages and disadvantages for angling and all sorts of stripes, really, but a lot of this comes down to competitive fishing, tournament. Specifically, we're talking a lot about kayaks and things, and the initial conversation had started where we had gotten into advantages of pedal versus paddle versus powered in the kayak world. How does that all kind of play together? We did sort of, I think we all kind of agreed at the end of that first segment that really there is no experience, there is no greater factor in there than an angler's experience when it comes to a tournament, whether that might be pre-fishing or just past history, something along those lines that a competitor can draw from. But, there's a lot of different factors in this kind of formula. But for this next portion, I kind of want to jump into, and Sean had alluded to a tournament that he had recently done at Candlewood. And I want to talk about something specifically from that I thought was really interesting, was that pre-fishing that event. A lot of, Sean, how many anglers were there? There were well over 50 anglers for that. And there were multiple tournaments, right?
Well, for the kayak end of things, day one had 72 anglers. Day two had 65. I believe the same 65 fish, so it just looked like 7 people dropped.
Gotcha.
But on top of that, I believe the week leading up to it, I know for a fact the Friday night, there was a big boat tournament out there that launched from the north end of the lake. And then there were 2 big boat tournaments, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. The Sunday I know in particular because if anyone was watching my live stream of me sinking 3 barrels into Jaws and getting dragged around that lake, I actually called for help. My man Tim Jacks was running a tournament with NEBA out there.
Yep.
And Tim's like, I'm fishing, piss off. I'm like, no, help, I'm dying. It's dragging me around. And he said no. So, yeah, but there was 2. So there were, at least between Friday and Sunday, 3 big boat tournaments out there, if not more, that I was not aware of, plus the double kayak tournament, the kayak tournament on both days.
And so. I remember with, leading up to, while people were pre-fishing, there was a lot of, discussion about, what people were experiencing. And I guess when day one came around, the Saturday for the tournament, a lot of the spots that a lot of competitors had marked, a lot of the fish were on beds. And come tournament day, they were not.
And that's being attributed a lot to that Friday night tournament because, like, in particular, I know Ken Wood shared a lot of his information on that tournament. He and I know Nate, after talking with Nate Shagnon so much, Nate, and a couple other people on Friday or Thursday, they broke 90 inches based on bed fishing. And then apparently that Friday night tournament, now there's different rules for different tournaments. And there's some states have laws with this and some don't. They if they got to the beds and yanked those fish out, and this is definitely one of the things I don't like about big boat fishing, no offense, Joe, but they'll put them in the live well, and those fish are on beds. If they're a mile away,
they're not getting back to the bed.
They're not. They'll give up on the bed. That bed's done for the year. So you might be taking a huge bass that is now not breeding that year because you've just dragged it away. And, if it's laid eggs, those eggs are gone in 15 minutes. The bluegills and everything else are getting in there and taking care of that shit. And
put mustard on
sucks,
that shit. They eat
but
it.
Yeah, bottom line, a lot of people that did really, really well throughout the week pre-fishing came Saturday, all their spots. Ken had put up a map of all the different beds he marked. And I think it was like in the 50s or 70s or something like that. It was a line of beds with big fish on them. And he said not one had a fish on Saturday. Not even one.
It was like 70 something at one point. Or
yeah, it was crazy. Look at the map, and it's just it wasn't even dots. The dots were all put together. It was almost like a line, a solid line of beds, and not
you zoomed in, and there was even more of them. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all those fish were gone the next day. Now, where I'm blaming or I'm catching information that the big boat tournament had a lot to do with that.
Sure.
Bobby, you and I talked about it on air a couple weeks ago. I feel a lot that with recreational lakes, you'll see fish back off beds, when the recreation picks up on weekends, when it's, not summertime.
Yeah.
So I feel that might have played a part too. How much? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm sure a lot of those beds got picked off by anglers. And then on top of that, you get the rec traffic in, and those fish said, all right, we're going to maybe finish up later in the week when things quiet down, And conversely, I had a shit pre-fishing experience. I caught 3 bass. I was really in a quandary of what to do, but I did find my spot that I felt was going to
produce.
Produce fish. I didn't know how much though. I didn't know I was going to pull, my 5 of my personal best smallmouths, one after the other off this spot. But I had an inkling that, I got one good fish there. And I think if I make a tweak here and there, I should be all right. And I made the right tweak. I used one lure for the entire tournament. I'm not going to get into what it was, but that lure was apparently what those fish wanted to see. Plopper. It was obviously a whopper plop. No, it was a striper pencil popper. It was about the size of this water bottle. It was great. I threw it on an ultralight. So, the experience was there for 2 different types of experience. Anglers that were much better than me, that knew how to bed fish. Circumstances changed, and their plan, big boats for life. Thanks, Joe. That's cute. Do more drawings for you. Their plan.
It took him 20 minutes to type that.
I know. The big boats, or the big boats, the guys that had a lot more experience with these large tournaments, a lot more than I did. They had a game plan, and circumstances changed, and they had to scramble. Whereas I had a bad pre-fishing experience and a shell of a game plan, but it worked.
Yeah.
So the sort of, I guess the question I want to put out there is sort of a hypothetical. Let's assume that this same situation were to happen and you have 2 anglers, Angler A and Angler B, and both are well experienced with past history in this. They have the same level of experience, not only tournament fishing, but fishing this body of water. And you have one that has a pedal kayak and one that has a power kayak. Now, I mean, you would assume that experience would, the paddler would then get to whatever their B, C, or D plan is within the amount of time that they could, because it would be closer to where they set up their A spot. I guess you would have to assume that. But wouldn't you say that also that the pedaling angler would have an advantage to be able to get to those other spots a little bit quicker, or get to other further spots?
I mean, you can cover more ground, but again, I think we covered that in the first half of this. Like, that can be a disadvantage. You know what I mean? Now you're muddling your own field. Yeah, but that's the thing. You never know what's going to be an advantage or a disadvantage.
Yeah. So, all right. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of equate it to saying that just because you have active target or 360 imaging or live scope, that yes, because you can see the fish, that you're going to be able to catch the fish.
Yeah.
I think that, it comes back to that skill form, but if you suck at fishing, it doesn't matter if you can see the fish on the live scope or whatever. If you aren't throwing what they want to eat, then guess what?
Then
it's
you're
happening.
not. It's
so
exactly.
Whether you can get there first or not, if it's 100 degrees out and you're throwing a bubblegum Senko with on a 1 ounce with a 1 ounce tungsten, guess what? You're probably not going to do too hot compared to somebody who's got more experience, but you never know.
So Joe,
I think Deryk hit it on the head there. If we're going to a scenario where, hey, this day the fish are on the beds and now they're not, that's where your just general knowledge of essentially bass comes into play. So if and anyone, we all know anyone could sit there and sight fish bass on beds. I mean, anyone can do it. If you suck at fishing, that's the one thing you can do. What that person who sucks at fishing doesn't know, where do bass go when they come off the beds? That's important to know. Like, some of those females are probably going to be going deep. Some of those males might, go up in the shallows, and people who don't do a little bit of research on the pattern of largemouth or smallmouth bass. They're just going to sit there with their head spin and be like, I don't know what to do. At least someone who has a general knowledge be like, okay, they're off the bed. So, I know that there's a good chance they're either going to be here or there. So that's going to be, where I go first, or, what I try next.
Yeah. I think the bigger comparison would be if you've got the same person, or you have the same two people fishing the same area. And how does having that pedal drive affect how they fish that area compared to the person who has the paddle? Because that's where you're going to see the difference compared to going to spot A or spot B, because there's so many other factors that get roped into that scenario where, you might have, say you have somebody who's got a motor guide and they've got spot lock.
Yep.
Okay, that's going to play a huge role in how you're going to fish that one area versus somebody who's got a paddle kayak and they don't have an anchor trolley or anything like that.
Yep.
It's going to completely change the way that the two of them fish that same area. So I think as much as we're focusing on the distance that allows you to travel, you also have to look at how does that affect how you fish that one area. We kind of went over that a little bit and how we were talking about the wind and whatnot, but I think you see a bigger discrepancy from people who have trolling motors versus people who paddle and who pedal.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to have spot lock, or people who, and it could even be people who have micro anchors, that all plays a far larger role, I think, especially in bass fishing, than you see with what pedal and paddle will do in your success for fishing in the day. Somebody who's got spot lock, you can go and you can fish in 15-mile-an-hour winds and you can hold that one spot. You can hammer it home. Whereas it doesn't matter if you paddle or pedal, you're going to get pushed away. So I think that's going to play a bigger impact compared to if you have, person A and B fishing two completely different spots. It's how are those two going to fish that one area if they were both in the same situation?
Yeah, playing off that, Deryk. So Joe and Bill and Deryk and Bobby, you haven't fished a day-long tournament yet, but like you fished with me. You fished competitively with the Chronic Trip stuff and with the Jigs and Bigs. Mm-hmm. When you guys come up on an area that yours is in your game plan and see somebody's fishing there, right? They've gotten there before you. Let's say it's plan A. They've gotten there before you. How do you feel about that?
Throw shit at them.
Usually I cut the lines.
Negative. Joe's a negative. Bill, how do you feel about that?
I think maybe mentally you're like, fuck, but I don't think it really changes much, Like perfect example is today. That area was not that big. The spots that I caught my bass, Andrew had been there probably 30 minutes prior, that same exact the opening. So I still just have to do what I have to do, stick to my game plan. So
I guess with me is this has happened to me. We go out.
Of course,
it's happened to everybody. With us in the big boats, essentially there's a lottery to which boat goes out first, and I've gotten first once, and it seems like someone always is in my the spot I want to go to. So that's why you always got to have a backup plan,
some kind of contingency,
or 2 or 3 or 4. But there's nothing, there's, the way I do it is, I between my Navionics, Google Earth, and my pre-fishing, I might have a plan of, let's say, 5 spots, that I'm going to fish. The first spot I want to hit. Shit, there's someone in there. Guess I got to go to 2, 3 thereafter. And you just kind of wagon wheel on back to 1, when hopefully they're not there and they didn't pull all the fish out, and you have a little bit better technique than they do.
Yeah.
Well, see,
I think you have to.
Oh, God.
I think you have to take into consideration your own skills and your own confidence and your own abilities to be able to pick up what somebody else left behind. So, like on Saturday, I was fishing this pond that I fish all the time, and it always produces good numbers, and occasionally we get a good, decent sized bass here and there. One friend I'm fishing with hammered this spot for probably 30 minutes, same deal, throwing a green pumpkin craw, just pitching it right into this area, maybe fishing 20, 25 feet of, worth of water, and that was it. He moved on. I worked it for 5 minutes. I pulled out a 19 and a quarter. So
Nice.
I think you can't let somebody else being there completely dissuade you from sitting there and going, it's my turn. What can I do in that area? Because for all you know, they could be throwing something completely different than what you're doing. Fishing, even if it's the same presentation, could be fishing it a completely different way than you are. And while they may not produce in that spot, you still can.
Mm-hmm.
See, I borrow a page from the Church of Big Nasty 186. And I will just roll in and I'm like, what's up, fuckers? How you doing? And I'll just kill them with kindness and then, chat their ear off. And they're like, this guy's not going to leave. And as they move on, I'll just sneak in with whatever I've got confidence with.
I have seen him stand shoulder to shoulder with somebody on a riverbank and roll cast his fly rod and go, how are they biting right here? And the guy's like, fuck, dude. He bullies them.
But
I think go ahead, Bobby.
I think there's a lot that Deryk said that I agree 100% with. Like, I look at it like this. If somebody is in my spot, one of the spots that I have marked, if there's not something that I can fish immediately nearby where I can still keep an eye on that spot, if I think that's going to produce, I'm going to fish around that spot until that opens up, and then I'm going to go and throw my particular brand of bullshit and see how it all goes.
That was exactly why I asked this question.
Yeah.
Because that's, again, where experience comes in. Even if someone has the advantage of getting to a spot before you, I always approach it like they're not throwing what I'm throwing. There's no way. I really go down some weird paths with lures, but I built confidence with those things, and it's proven for me results. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, like, I'll sit there and wait. Okay, good. Fuck around. I don't give a shit. You're eventually going to move. I got it. I'll get in there, and you're going to miss fish. You're not going to catch everyone in there.
Yeah, there's going to be some kind of an overhang or a laydown or something that's fringe around that one area that you'll be able to, and you might pick up a fish, off that stuff that's nearby before you're able to get in there. It's sometimes even just your presence there is enough to be like, they're like, hey, this isn't working. I'm going to get moving. And they might wrap it up a little bit earlier. Instead of sinking like 45 minutes into it, they might be gone in 20.
Yeah, and that's, when I said at Candlewood, when I was watching bass boats just zip by me and kayakers zip by me and no one was stopping where I was, not even close, not even on the stretch. When I did watch people that did stop, there was a few, not many. I didn't have much company for 2 days, but they would whip a few things around, not catch shit and go. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing something right here. I found the right spot. I found fish where they're on, and apparently I'm doing something different enough that nobody's touching it. You know what I mean? Touching these fish. So, I mean, again, confidence with that is more into play. So if someone were to say, yeah, I've got this advantage, I can get to a spot before Sean, I'll sit there and go, fucking go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll be there slow and steady. I'll get there eventually.
You're not fishing with gas station sushi, man.
Yeah. Don't move, because I'll get in there and take those fish. You know what I mean? Or do some damage. But yeah, I mean, you really took the words out of my mouth by saying it's my own particular brand of bullshit. I really should. That's our next shirt.
Yeah.
Maybe we should outsource that to Hookset.
That's a good idea. The Hookset Hoodlums particular brand of bullshit line.
Yeah. I know they're not throwing my brand of bullshit because Andrew hasn't bagged it up yet for sale. So,
Andrew's crew, his servants.
Yeah,
staff. I think they prefer the staff. Yeah. I think so.
I told you guys he paid me to bring that fish in today. He didn't catch that.
Well, now
that was in my live all the entire time.
Did you guys see? Did I share this on my story? I think I did. I shared this on my story today. It was a clip from TikTok. Yeah, it was. It was a reel.
Is that the grocery store fish?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I saw it. The trout.
I saw that, and they're like, nobody's gonna know. How would they know? Nobody's gonna know.
You could have taken a number of pictures with the decomposing. I mean, there was 5 of them. I think D and I found decomposing shad floating down the river.
Oh, we saw a couple of those.
Yeah. You got to grab some pictures with those.
That's what you call that's what's just known as early summer in Northampton. Yeah. Dead shad all over the place.
All the way down, all the way, the whole river, man. They just stink. They get up into the Chicopee River, and there's less place to move. Sometimes they do, one of them gets caught up. It's like a log jam of dead ones, and the whole neighborhood smells.
You walk out there, and you're like, "That's some Chicopee shit."
Nothing's worse than going up for steelhead, the Salmon River, and I got them king salmons decomposing everywhere. Oh, that smell, that stick with you.
They come up to.
I've been going there my whole life. I know exactly what that's
That'll
like.
stick with you.
Yep.
Now, what's a worse?
I can't wait to go back.
What's a more offensive odor, that or the Willie Nelson at the boat launch?
That guy stunk like fucking death. That was way worse.
My uncle Willie.
Look at
that's his car, but I'll move it.
Oh yeah, I tried to get him arrested.
That was amazing.
There were several dead shad in the river, and not once did I say to anyone around me about those dead shad, "What the fuck?" Willie Nelson, within 5 minutes, I was like, "What the fuck?" That guy stunk.
We're going to get a phone call from the real Willie Nelson, and he's going to be like, "What are you doing throwing my freaking name around like that?"
Yeah, that guy was B.O. bad.
Yeah, he was.
Yep.
The cop pulled up, and he was like, I guess he's here for me.
He knew.
Hey, this is just way off topic, but I went to Subway right down the road before I got on the highway from leaving the bank there, the boat launch there. And there was this dude in front of me, and I wanted to make the joke to him, but he had a lot of different beads on and colors and stuff like that. So I was like, let me just not, I wasn't in the mood to get down in the Subway. But he had a tattoo on him that said "No Rules," and the O was like the circle with the line through it, and he had also an ankle bracelet on. So he is living under rules, but. I was looking at Andrew. I'm like, should I do it? He's like, no. I'm like, I want to bring it up, I think. He's like, no. Ooh, interesting town.
It is. Oh my goodness. No, I think we kind of, I think this is a great conversation. And I think it was something that hopefully our listeners can kind of get in their own heads and number one, not worry so much about the gear. And I gotta put myself in this equipment. That's going to give me the edge. Which actually, I have a question for Deryk. Now, I'd like some feedback because you deal with some of the best. Three Bells has some of the most amazing accessories for your kayak. If you don't already have all these amazing boats available for people, you deal with this stuff on a regular basis. Then what's the draw? What's the draw for an angler as far as coming in there and, making this investment in their resources and their tools?
So this is where you kind of circle back to the whole skill versus equipment, right? Yep. I think you have a strong mix between, you see some very, very, very elite level fishermen, and they have all the equipment in the world.
Yeah.
But they're able to make the most of it with their skill set that they have. And I think for a lot of people, we correlate equipment with skill. So, we've had people that come through the door in 2 12-inch displays on their kayak and a motor guide and everything else. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, that's all well and fine. If that's what makes you confident in your ability to fish, guess what? If you're confident, you're going to fish better,
yeah.
But all of that equipment isn't going to make you a better fisherman if you don't put in the time and effort to get better as a whole. I think we see it a lot. It doesn't matter if you're fishing out of, a Bonafide or if you're fishing out of a Hobie. They all have their place. And if you can utilize your skill set and tailor your kayak around your skill set, or some people will do it the other way and they'll take their kayak and develop their skill set around their kayak, depending on what it is that they're trying to do. And you see that a lot in people who are trying to grow as an angler, is to, I will say, set themselves up for success by putting all of those things, so that way they can't say, well, I didn't do well because I didn't have side imaging. So I couldn't see the structure that I wanted to flip to that was under the water for today. Or I didn't have, I didn't have a pedal drive, so I couldn't fish the area that I wanted to fish today because the launch was too far away and I was going to burn so much time trying to get there. So you see a lot of people that will go and say, listen, I don't want to give myself any excuses, so I'm going to put everything I can into this.
Gotcha.
So the only excuse I have at the end of the day is myself. My own abilities.
Yeah. We've seen this before, like the argument with like Panoptic specifically, when they're like, it's new technology, and we've seen it before in the tournament world where people will say, oh, that's an unfair advantage. It's like it's too much of a game changer. The leagues should ban it. Whatever that situation might be. But again, like it is just a tool, and I mean, just because you've got it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Like you have to understand that, and you have to make some investment and get experience with those resources to make it work.
Example, I upgraded this year to a Garmin unit. Mm-hmm. A larger one, so I have side imaging now. I see so much crap on the side imaging, but I have no idea what the hell I'm looking at. It does me no good to sit there. It has its benefits when I can clearly see structure and things like that, where it's like, okay, I can see that there's submerged timber here that I couldn't see normally because it's stained water.
Yep.
Okay, yes, is that beneficial to me? But you see, like a lot of people, and I'll use side imaging as an example, thinking that you can see fish on it. Yeah, if you get really, really good and you have very good detail in very relatively unpolluted water, in the sense that you don't have a lot of small artifacts in the water to create artifacting in the screen, you might be able to see a shadow of a fish, which is like a grain of rice on your screen. You might be able to see that. But having side imaging isn't just going to make it so you can now instantly find all of these fish and start fishing. And I think a lot of people, the draw for them is they see so many people using it, and they think that this is going to be the key that makes them that much better. But they don't know how to utilize some of those tools that they have. You can have all the tools, but if you don't know how to utilize them, are you really helping yourself better, be a better fisherman?
See, there is one thing that I have heard from competitive fishermen, and that is when you pre-fish or when you're practicing and you're checking out another body of water, oftentimes there's way more value in what's seen as really like daunting and almost kind of boring, and that's just idling around and getting a scan of everything that's around you. So then that way you can look at that and figure that out. And that was, I know, like getting into like the specifics of like the kayak that that I'm moving into there. One of the biggest things that I wanted to put together was the transom mount so that I could put a trolling motor on there. And the more I thought about it was, I know we had talked about like interviews on the water, things for the podcast. That's all well and good, but really the real benefit is, I will actually be able to go and look at side imaging and say like, okay, so I didn't know that there was this, brush pile here. I didn't know that, this is what was happening on this one other area, and I can mark these things, and then the hope is that through experience, I'll be able to then get a rough idea of with what's happening, the time of the year, the specific weather conditions, things like that, to make better decisions and maximize, my time when I'm out there. And I'm not even talking about tournament fishing. I'm just talking about like record keeping. Like that's it, But
I think a lot of people don't see the value in their fish finder as more than just finding fish with it. If you can take the time to discern, okay, this is a brush pile versus this is suspended timber, those are two very different things that you're trying to find in a body of water. If you can start to be able to pick and pull those kinds of things apart, you have something that now, instead of what you saw in that split second, that's something that's there year round.
Yeah.
And you can't see those things on Navionics. You can't see those things on Google Earth for the most part. So if you can't see those without being on the water, now you have a spot that you can come back to the next time you go in that body of water, or in a different time of year where you can start to break down that ability to really learn a whole body of water. I think you see that in a lot with people who use fish finders we're only looking for fish. And this is for people who are new to using them for the most part, but you're looking just for the fish. You're not looking for the other information that you get along the lines while you're also using it.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
And then where that, again, you're going to always hear me come back to this because I think this was my whole point on this conversation. That experience, the experience of now you've just got a fish finder, right? What are you doing with it? Well, let's say I'm constantly looking for vertical edges, constantly. One thing you're never going to get from any map, whether it's the state of Massachusetts, whether it's Garmin, whether it's Navionics,
yep.
You're not ever going to get how the depths interact with weeds. And I think that is so important.
That's a good point too.
You're just not going to see that. So now what I'm looking for is, okay, I'm in 12 feet of water. You can't see the weeds because maybe the weeds grow to the surface at 8 feet, but in 12 feet, they're 4 feet below. You can't even see the tops because you're stained. You're trying to find that weed edge because maybe those weeds only grow to 12 feet of water, and at 13 feet, not enough light penetrates for those things to live. So now you're trying to track that edge, and that's where a fish finder becomes valuable.
Yeah.
When Chris and I went out last week, I was trying to. This was the first time he was using a fish finder, so he had a lot of firsts, man. I threw that guy
through
in
the kitchen sink at him. Yeah.
So he not only had to deal with wind and his first time in the canoe kayak hybrid that I have, and I said, "Here's a fish finder. All you have to do is look for." We were marking. I felt that our bite was happening between 8 and 10 feet. If you went deeper than 10 feet, they weren't there. If you went shallower than 8, it was hit and miss. But it was constant at that 8 to 10. So I set him up and I said, if you're in 10 feet of water and you're parallel with the bank, cast in. If you drift in and you're in 8 feet of water, cast out. You know what I mean? Like a 30-degree angle, not like straight out to the side, but you know what I'm saying? And that's where the water we were at didn't have a lot of weeds. So that was pretty easy because I didn't have to find a weed line and try to stick on it and work it parallel.
Yeah.
I just looked down at that 8 to 10 and said, we're trying to stick on this. It's not a straight line around the lake. It went all over the place. There's a boulder here, a boulder there. But that was, it was a learning experience for him with that. Whereas I'm now kind of used to that. And again, experience will tell you on a lake, like, okay, so this map says on Garmin or on the state of Massachusetts, because we're all Mass and Connecticut idiots, and wherever you're getting these topo maps, and it's going to show you the depth. But it's not going to show you that the weeds grow up and only allow you to fish 3 feet of that 10 feet. Mm-hmm. And that all of a sudden turns from I'm dropping a drop shot or a Ned rig to running a swim jig over it.
Yep.
Or running a chatterbait over it or running top water over it. So again, your tools are your maps, your fish finder, your gear that is going into that. But it's always going to come down to what do you do with it? I was thinking about it today when I was loading my boat up. This is a really good analogy. What if I handed every one of you guys and myself one of the bats Barry Bonds used to hit 73 home runs? Do you think we could hit 73 home runs with it?
I'd sell it.
I'd sell it
like
too.
71 and 72.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's the
well,
real
wasn't
win.
it? I thought it was 73 you broke the record with all the juice.
No, I'm saying I probably get around 71 or 72.
Yeah, well,
myself.
I mean, you're special. So
Thank you.
I do better with like the Wade Boggs thing, like what is it, 70 beers on a plane? Like I could probably do that.
Yeah.
it was the
You
daily
only know that because it's always sunny.
It's true.
the daily fried chicken, Bobby. That's what you got to do. You've been on a fried chicken MO lately. It's the daily fried chicken before every game. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's no matter what we're using, no matter what we have, I really feel strongly that while there's going to be some play with it, the generality, I think, is that the experienced angler is probably going to do better.
Yeah.
Overall, it's just like baseball. Everybody strikes out once in a while, but the guys that are going to hit 300 are going to hit 300. And then every once in a while, a Ted Williams comes around.
Yeah.
Once in a century. But that's just my 2 cents. That's what kind of sparked this whole conversation. And like I said, I really had to look inward because I've really talked a lot, and I meant it, about getting that pedal kayak and being able to move. And I think that for me, it might be an advantage, but it might not be an advantage for somebody else. So am I a hypocrite? I don't know. I hope not.
I think, this could change maybe, but I think that the biggest advantage is, experience and preparation. But I also think as far as being able to get around easier and change your position faster, especially in a tournament where you have a time restriction, is also advantageous. So it all depends on everything. I don't think anything is as big as preparation and experience, though, obviously.
Yeah. And then, we've talked about it. I know a few of us, like the competitive fishermen that are part of that Hookset Hoodlum thread. I mean, we've really talked about it, and you might see more from us. Whereas, we might be going out with somebody who's a little less experienced and saying, "Hey, do you want to come out and see what we do?" Like exactly what I did with Dabari the other day. He's like, "Dude, I'm an open book. Start writing. Let's go." I'm like, "Okay, here's what I'm doing. Here's, there's no way for me to impart at this point 32 years of experience on the water in a weekend, but I can start like right off the bat." Bobby and I, you guys will hear this week, but Bobby and I talked about one of the things that I do kind of subconsciously when I go out with a new angler is I watch their mechanics on their casting. And I can correct that quick. That's real quick. So after about 5 casts, I said, "Chris, stop, take a slow-mo cast." And he did it. And I said, "Okay, I just saw something that I think we can improve on." And boom, like for the rest of the day, he was good. And then that just changed his fishing. For me, just watching him, I'm not an ergonomics coach, but I watched him knowing what I know about fishing, knowing what I know about sports. I mean, to get into the issue, it wasn't a big deal, but he was like, when he was casting, instead of just using a trigger finger to let go of the line, he was using his whole hand. So he was actually casting and following through with only his left hand because this was off like that. So when I saw that, I said, it's kind of the equivalent of if you're taking a slap shot in hockey, and you let go with your back hand like that, you're going to decrease your accuracy. You're going to decrease your speed of the shot. Baseball is kind of a different thing because you do, after you follow through, you let go. At some point, you're letting go of one side. Golf, you don't.
Yep.
Tennis, if you got to, you're swinging with 2 hands, you don't. You follow through with both. But I said that to him, and he got it real quick. So I was like, okay. And he was like, "Man, thanks. I improved my casting right off the bat." And then we went from there. But like, I think you're going to see a lot more of that where, myself, and I know Nate and Nelson, we talked about it. We're the 3 real, experienced competitive fishermen. And we said, we're going to use this to help everyone around us get better. And I think it's important. And I think it's a good thing that we're looking at that way. You know what I mean? Because this all led to, I think, I know it was a lot of joking, but we joke a lot on that thread. And Nate took things in a direction one day, and I was like, "Man, peel it back a little, dude. That was rough." He's like, No, I was cool with everybody who sent messages around. I'm like, "Yeah, but you were a little rough about some shit." I said, "Why don't we help? Let's make this positive. We're part of this group. Let's make this shit positive." And
who's Nate?
Yeah, exactly.
I never heard of her. That thread, much like actually listen, social media is like we all have fun with it, but even myself, like I fished lakes right my whole life, but I pride myself on the rivers, and then I started fly fishing with Big Nasty, and although that's fly fishing, I learned so much from him. And I was the same way. I'm like, just teach me what you know. I'll show you what I know about the bass fishing and all that, and then talking to Cody. Cody's a tidal river fisherman. Private waters, I should add, but
that's kind of what Nate touched on.
Cody's the man. But and you, I mean, Sean, I'm calling you, I'm picking your brain because we all should, we all have our skill sets. So you got to learn from each other. Joe's teaching me drop shot. I'm like, I never did that shit. I know you guys talk about it before, but last year you showed me. I'm like, what the hell? Nobody's catching fish. Joe's just plucking them out of the water like nothing. Like, we should all, we have to be open books,
Drop shot. Who's she?
Yeah. Josephine.
Yep. No, it's
game fishing. The video game fishing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sometimes you got to do it.
No, I never have to do it. I never do. I never drop shot. The only time I drop shot was last year I was drop shotting live bait for a bluegill in the Chronic Trips tournament because I needed an 8-inch bluegill and I could not get one. I couldn't buy one.
My daughter caught one yesterday.
Well, if you look on the internet, that girl knows where you can buy one at the grocery store. And then,
hey, my daughter caught 2 8.5-inch bluegill, and I'm like, Sean couldn't do it. I don't know. You're almost 8 though, so no big deal.
Well, hey, listen, Sean doesn't drop shot, so that's his disadvantage.
You would think that, but see, I also throw finesse jigs, which is a huge advantage. I think. Like,
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm able to use that in place, and that's what like when
because we're going off the rails now.
yeah, I know. But when I talked with Chris about this stuff,
Have you heard this show?
Yeah, I know.
This is really put together. Sorry,
I'm surprised we haven't started getting into bar taco yet. But when I talked with Chris, I'm like, just keep in mind, everything I'm telling you is my experience, and other people have different experiences. Like, I don't drop shot. I don't say it doesn't work. I just don't do it and have a little fun going back and forth with those who do. I know it works. Mm-hmm. It fucking works. It's a technique that works, but it doesn't work for me. And I found substitutes that I feel in those conditions work for me to get fish, on the board. Mm-hmm. It works, but you're not going to learn it from me because I'm not going to be the one. I don't have the skill to teach it. I don't have the experience with it to teach it. So, but if someone goes to Joe and then me, they now have a decision where they can say, wow, well, maybe Joe uses this drop shot under this certain conditions, and Sean uses a finesse jig under this different kind of condition. They can now look at the conditions and say, well, maybe I use one or the other. Maybe I try something. It's an open book.
That's the beauty of it. It really is a formula, and you can make it your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just another club in the bag.
Exactly. And Joe and Bobby heard me.
I heard you today.
Get into an animated conversation with a guy on that ramp. Hey, you got all those fishing rods. Oh, what do you need all those rods for? And I'm like, I went right into the golf analogy. I go, just like golf, man. I go, different weights for different lures. I said, I point at my 5 rods that I carry with me every time. I'm getting good at this now. I'm like, driver, putter, sand wedge, 7-iron, 2-iron. And I looked at him. He's like, oh. So he
just bit a dead shad.
That was it. Easy enough. But like, that happens more often than not. Look at all those rods. Oh, look at all those extra rods. Yeah, they're extra. Just in case one breaks, I bought 4 fucking extra, guy.
I only pulled out 4 today. That's pretty good for me.
Yeah.
I did 4.
I used 3 out of my 5. I didn't use 2 of them. 2 of them stayed wrapped up. But
there was 12 in the locker, but I only used 4.
What do you own, a bait and tackle shop?
Yeah, right.
Hey, don't tell Meg I got that. Don't tell Meg I got that many in there.
She won't know. She doesn't listen.
What's it worth to you?
Disadvantage.
But I mean, so I don't know, Bobby. You were the moderator for all this. Where are we at? What is the bottom line on here? Is it experience? Is it what's an advantage? What did we do today? What the fuck just happened?
I think really.
Did we record?
No.
Oh shit! I never hit record. No, of course we're recording. Of course, I'm a professional amateur podcaster.
You're the best.
No, I think the real takeaway is that we did nail down that ultimately, like, experience plays a majority factor in this equation of, tournament success, competitive success, records. Whether you're competing in a tournament situation against other anglers, you're competing with yourself just for records. Maybe you suffer from chronic depression and anxiety. Whatever. I mean. These are all, like, whatever the game is, so to speak. Your experience, your comfort level with what you're doing, your comfort level with the weather, all of the different variables that are involved play the key factor. Anything else in there that you can build to give yourself an advantage in the right fashion is an advantage. Otherwise, not so much, And again, I mean, I think that a lot of people, they get hung up on when they hear like, oh, well, they had such an advantage because of this, or don't you feel like you're at a disadvantage because you're, using this? Perhaps, but that doesn't necessarily mean that having like a little leg up in one specific area of this equation that there's necessarily a shoe-in or anything like that. So I think we've kind of we've come around full circle, I think, and done a pretty good job explaining this. Pretty solid. Anybody else want to jump in anything and or throw any feedback in?
I've said enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the biggest portion is experience and preparation.
Yep.
It's your biggest advantage.
I think a big thing, I'm going to throw a little PSA out there for anyone who's looking to get into tournaments. Educate yourself. Educate yourself first. do the homework, because I mean, well, Sean's been doing it forever. Any of us who've done the tournament stuff, you see, especially when you're brand new, it is frustrating when you're seeing fish. You'll sit out there and be like, oh, I'm not catching fish, so everyone else probably isn't. That's not always the case, and it can be frustrating. So do your homework before you get into the tournaments. I think everyone should do tournament fishing, but to alleviate the frustration, educate yourself, figure out the patterns, figure out the bodies of water. And it's unrealistic that you're going to be on the top, right out the gate.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think even then, with doing your homework and all that, the tournament is the trails are a grind. Like I whatever happens. Like, I don't expect, be number one this year or next year. It's learning. Look at Nate. Nate is a good example. I was joking around, but Nate Shagnan's like put in the work, and he's constantly grinding and learning and feeding off guys like Sean and picking brains and getting intel. And then all of a sudden look at this year. He's having a hell of a year. He's smashed, and he's I believe in the running for Angler of the Year. So I mean, he's got to be
for the Eastern Division. I think he's in second or third right now. Yeah.
And I think Nate Shagnan, as far as kayak fishing continues to grow, will be a name that people will know if you don't know him already. Like, meanwhile, that takes time. That's not going to be because you know how to fish, or you know how to go catch fish with your buddies, that you're going to be nasty in tournaments. It's time, it's preparation, experience is huge, and obviously anyone who does it sees that. Like, 1 year isn't, you're not going to be the best. It's experience that builds it. Nate
and I talked about that, and you know what a really good comparison is? After New Year's, everybody goes to the gym. Yeah, people that are normally at the gym are like, oh, well, we're going to see everybody new from January to February, and they're all going to get sick of this.
You're right.
That's how competitive fishermen feel generally in April.
I could see that.
Because you're going to see all the new people come in, and they're going to be like, what the fuck did I just get into?
Yeah.
Yep.
And we saw it, we saw it this year. I knew it was going to happen for the Western Division for MAKB.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and it didn't help that the April tournament, the opening tournament at Quabog, was a fucking wind tunnel. That made it even worse, because there were some people out there that probably went out and caught some fish that were good here and there in their lifetimes and said, I'm going to do this. And they got on Quabog and they got spun around, But
I think that there's value in those brutal initial years and initial outings. You know what I mean? Like,
there is
where you'll take somebody, like, I would probably, well, Sean, when you first started, I'm sure you got into this and you were like, it was a humbling experience.
Dude, I'm going to tell you two great stories. Number one, Congamond is a brutal, brutal place to fish, because I don't think, Joe's nodding, he knows, I don't think there's any body of water in Massachusetts that gets hit with more tournaments. It's every weekend there's like 3 or 4 tournaments, and then I think there's 2 or 3 that go weekly throughout the, from April to October. Mm-hmm. So it's 50 tournaments throughout the year, if not 60, and the place just gets smashed. I went there. A buddy of mine had a bass boat. We would do an open tournament every year. There was an open, the Dare program to keep kids off drugs. Is Dare even still around? I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
Derek's nodding.
I had it.
Okay,
I think my brother had it for like 2 years and then it disappeared. So I don't know if it's still around. But
well, they would have
brother. Then he stayed back in the Dare program. It's a 1 year program.
They Dare out here would do an open. I don't know if they were the sponsor or they were tied in somehow, but they would do an open tournament. So me and my buddy would get in his bass boat year after year and get fucking shit on. It was we would just get killed. And finally, I went away and I started really researching and going out and doing things that I had not, reading Bassmaster, reading this, reading that, and just absorbing as much as I could. Yeah. And also this is like, it coincided with my sobriety. And when I sobered up, I just started fishing. That was my substitute. And there was the breakthrough came when I mapped out Congamon. I said, here's what we're going to do. Here's a plan. Right. And I said, I think this will work. And we caught 2 fish that day. I caught them both on the lure that I thought was going to work. One of them in the area where I thought it was going to work. And the other fish was a lunker.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I didn't put in on the fucking lunker pool.
Oh, shit. Really?
40 boats.
It's a rookie mistake right there.
They said, nice job, Sean Dominic. You're the only person who broke 5 pounds. And I said, here's the envelope back. I didn't put in on it. The next guy up was like, thanks, motherfucker. You're stupid, and took it. And I don't know how much money was in the envelope because I didn't want to open it.
Enough. But yeah, you're better off not knowing.
Probably $200-$300, if not more.
Yep.
But it worked. That was regardless of me not winning that money. I plotted out what we were going to do, and it worked.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We caught 2 fish. It was pretty funny because I had to ask somebody for one of those weigh-in bags. I'm like, hey, can I borrow your bag? And the guy's like, who the fuck are you? And I went and got it. And I brought in a 5-pounder, and it would do this one fish. They gave me credit for it. It was 11 and 15 sixteenths. It was a minimum 12-inch. I'm like, yeah, we'll count it because whatever, it doesn't matter. But they gave me credit for that, and I laughed and put those fish back. But we celebrated because we did it. We got that was a big confidence builder. And then the other confidence builder, before I started going to Oklahoma and learning how to fish timber, I fished a tournament with my good friend, the Dude Bud, on A1. It was a small boat and bass boat tournament, but you had to use the trolling motors only. We're idiots. We fished it in a canoe with a cooler for a live well, just stretched across the middle. We caught 1 fish that day. We almost capsized twice. The wind was so bad that we could only fish the western shore. We caught 1 fish. I caught that on a lipless crankbait. I also should say I caught those 2 fish at Congamon on lipless crankbaits. And then I always remembered that humiliation because a guy I went to high school with actually fished that tournament. And he goes, dude, I thought that was you. I was going to say something. Were you guys in a fucking canoe? Like, yeah, we were in a canoe. We did this. And Cody's listening to this right now going, I knew it. Sean's got a jaded history with canoes.
Yeah, it's so canoe.
Disadvantage lifestyle.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the problem with having a canoe? Are you saying they were at an advantage?
He's just saying it's a lifestyle.
I'm just saying I went into one of the most dangerous lakes on a wind-blown day when it was 25 to 5 mile an hour gusts.
Wait, this was A1?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were looking to get skewered.
And you were just in there canoeing with your buddy.
Just canoeing with the Dude Bud. We don't give a shit. We're out there canoeing. So when I came back from Oklahoma, I always had that. I felt a personal slight from A1 because I'm like, now I know what I can do in timber.
Yeah.
And I went back there and I mean, I love A1. I mean, as shown by this, the most recent time I was there. I mean,
with Deryk,
that was amazing.
Deryk.
Yeah, that was absolutely amazing. So
yeah, that's true.
That's how you build. That's how you build on stuff. You're seeing patterns in one place and applying them in another, and that's how shit works. And that's where you build your experience. But again, Bill, you said at the beginning of this recording, you're out there right now taking your lumps. Mm-hmm. That's part of the game, man. Nobody walks into tournaments and just says, I'm just going to win them all. It just doesn't happen, Yep.
100%.
So use it and learn. Just don't get discouraged and say, okay, so I finished 15th out of 16th. What were the conditions? Yeah. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? There's you've got to do an autopsy after every event and say, what did I do? Did I miss a fish? So that'll tell you like, hey, I was on, or like that Washakum I mentioned a minute ago. I was on fish. I caught what I felt was the biggest fish of the year for me. Where did I screw up? The net. I dropped the net. The fish fell out of the net. So it wasn't the fishing aspect. It was the process,
the
of
execution.
It's everything, right? It's a process.
Yeah, and that part of the process I failed. And you know what I did immediately after that? I moved my roto grips from my other kayak to that one, and now I can lock my net in, and shit like that doesn't happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had that thing. I was trying to do 3 things at once. I had the net under my armpit. That fish jerked once. The whole thing went in the water, and maybe I finished 3rd that day with that fish instead of 7th. But that's the things that stick, and that's the experiences you have to remember and turn into a positive.
Mm-hmm. I forget who said it, but there was recently it came up where they said any day on the water, even if you don't catch fish, as long as you can take away some knowledge and expand what you've got, was not a wasted time. If you walk away and the only thing you take away from it is just like, I suck, then it was a waste of time. I've been there before, and looking back, I can say like, yeah, that was a waste of time because I wasn't applying the clues that I picked up along the way that could help benefit me further down the road. you know?
Yeah. And one of the things that I hear a lot, and it sucks, and this was bandied about a few years ago, like when Ken Wood got MAKB up. Like
Yep.
Ken's an incredible fucking fisherman. Like Ken can
Not
go out.
you, Ken from Hookset. You suck.
Scrooge. but he runs that tournament, and he does take a lot of input from the members on where to have tournaments. But like sometimes new people will come in. Oh, he picks places that he's good at. Dude, you can drop Ken anywhere.
You really can.
And Ken laughed because when I won the Quabog the first tournament of the year, he goes, "Get ready for it. You're the director. You're going to hear it. Sean picks places that he's good at." I fished the Quabog River. That was the second time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't plan on fishing that section until that day when I saw everyone else shoot at Joe, what's the other river? The one that goes in?
7 Mile.
7 Mile River. Everyone went there, and I'm like, I'm not going that way. I'm going to go try the other one. I was going to go that way based on water temperatures. And I said, I'm not fighting people over fish. I went the other way, and it turned out, surprisingly, guess who went the other way? Ken Wood. So what did he know? You know what I mean? Like, how did he read that? And we went in there, and it looks like most of the fish that day came out of that river. Just there's where the luck came in, the sliver of luck of 75 people took off one way, the way I wanted to go, and I said, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
That was it. That was all I based it on. And then I said, well, the one time I went with Nelson to that river, I found 2 little pockets that I think will hold fish. Guess where I caught all my fish? In those 2 pockets. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. Experience, and try to maintain a level head and don't get emotional over how other people are doing because you can't control that,
Yeah, you really do have to separate that whenever you're competing and just kind of focus on the task and, stay out of your head. That's the worst part.
Like many things in life, lessons that I learned way too late from jiu-jitsu, actually. I think it was Carlos Gracie, one of the Gracies. There's no losing. You win or you learn.
Yeah.
I think that I live by that, with everything.
Yeah, that's awesome, actually. That's really, that should be a Hookset shirt right there.
To quote,
it would be a stolen quote.
To quote a great man from Crumpton, Maryland, that shit's profound, Bill.
That shit is profound. City of Crumpton.
You hoodlum.
City of Crumpton.
I love it. Oh, friggin' crazy. All right, guys, we're going to take a real short break, and we're going to hear from Three Bells Outfitters. We'll be back to put a bow on this sucker and wrap it all up. Guys, stick around. We'll be right back. Jigs and Bigs is proud to announce that we're being supported by Three Bells Outfitters. Located in Smith Cove on the Niantic River, TBO is Connecticut's premier paddle sports retailer. They're a full-service shop specializing in kayaks and paddleboards for everything from recreation to tournament fishing. Three Bells is an authorized dealer of Hobie, Jackson, Feel Free, Native, and Bonafide kayaks, as well as many paddleboard brands. Not sure of what kind of SUP or kayak you want? TBO offers free demos of all brands. Want to go for an extended test drive? They have a full-service rental facility on site. Three Bells also offers a complete rigging service for your kayak with such brands as Yak Attack, Yak Gear, Burley Pro, Yak Power, Torqeedo, and more. The sky is the limit. You can visit Three Bells Outfitters in person or online at threebellsoutfitters.com. They ship anywhere in the lower 48 states or order online and pick up at the store. Can't make it to the store to pick up your kayak or worried the freight company might damage your purchase? Three Bells Outfitters offers a white glove delivery of kayaks within a 225-mile radius of their store at a rate less than typical freight carriers. They will deliver your kayak, set it up, and answer any questions you may have. Be sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Don't forget to tell them Jigs and Bigs sent you. Three Bells Outfitters, because life is better on the water. Put a bow on this podcast here, guys. This was definitely a shift in topic and in style. We didn't cover a lot of the normal segments that we have here, but I think that this was a really great sort of conversation to have about, competitive fishing, sort of the mindset of an angler who has more on the line than just catching some stocker trout or something like that. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's really trying to develop and grow as an angler. This is stuff that I think is really important. So I'm really glad that we're able to do it. Thanks you guys for coming on board and doing all this stuff. Before we wrap up, if anybody has any final thoughts that they want to throw out there, it's a great opportunity to do so now. Anybody at all want to jump in? Or we can, what we can actually do is I'll go around and you guys, if you have anything, Joe and Deryk and Bill, if you guys have anything coming up like this summer that people should know about, whether it's regarding social media, if you've got stuff coming in store that's like really hot, things like that. Joe, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so Old Glory is getting into the swim bait game. We already got some, it's swim bait game's taking off here in New England. Mm-hmm. So we have custom swim baits coming up from the South, and I have another company. Can't say yet, but next day or two, make sure you're checking us out on social media. Old Glory Outdoors USA on Instagram, and be ready for that announcement.
That's awesome, man. Nice. And you got a big arc order in recently.
Oh man. So I got to tell. So
I'm a bit of a fan.
Just got a bunch more arc rods in. We actually just got their entire line of hard baits, their crankbaits, their jerk baits, their top water stuff, and all their tungsten. Arc's up and coming. You're starting to see them in the Elite Series and everything. Bobby uses them. I use them.
That should be endorsement enough. I mean, let's be honest.
And I just got a shipment ready to send Cody down his. I was just texting him about it. So it's they're going to be a game changer. So just stay tuned to that company. So check out Arc Rods as well.
Did Cody try to order a carton of Newports too, or just the arc rods?
He did, but mass bans menthol now, so
that's true.
He said he told me he'd give me some gas money to head.
Poor Cody.
Oh my God. So yeah, definitely guys, go check out oldgloryoutdoors.com, and remember, you can order all kinds of great stuff by using that code Jigs and Bigs. Save yourself some cash and gear up on some of the greatest stuff that's out there. And there's always like amazing inventory. If you're in East Brookfield, stop by and check out the store. It's awesome. Deryk,
you can use that code in store too.
Oh yeah, you can use that code in store too.
Hey, side note, Bobby, I'm sorry. Side note on this. Joe, I didn't tell you today. My wife was in store last week and picked up 1/3 of my Father's Day gift. Did not use the Jigs and Bigs promo.
Oh, good.
So I guess we're now even, where I walk out of your store stealing things and pay for them later, I guess. And now my wife's paying full price for stuff. So you made some money off.
There you go.
That's all right. Nate Shagdon's doing the same thing. I mean, if you guys saw in the thread, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, and also anybody who is going to Old Glory over the next couple days, Chris DeBari bought a block of cheese from Granville General Store and left it at my house. So it will be in Joe's cooler next to the worms. Do not steal DeBari's cheese. Thank you, PSA.
Do eels eat cheese, Joe?
We're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
Oh, God.
That right there, that should be alive.
Trout.
Yep.
Trout eat cheese.
Yep.
Trout eat cheese whiz.
Now, Deryk has something going on at Old Glory that's coming up, a big event, in fact, and we've mentioned it a bunch. Deryk, we're talking about the Trifecta. What's going on over there?
Yeah, so Trifecta is we're less than a month away. It's hard to believe it's already here. So July 16th through 18th is our annual saltwater kayak fishing tournament. Today we announced our partnership with the Kayak Saltwater Series. It's the sister trail to KBF, but it's for saltwater. And KSS is partnering with us this year, and we're having a whole separate leaderboard within our tournament that is the 5 largest combined striped bass for the top 3 anglers. There's going to be $1,000 split between the 3 of them. So first place will get $500. Second place will get $300. Third place will get $200. That's on top of all of the prizes that we already give out to our Trifecta winner. Trifecta winner is going home with a brand new Hobie PA12 with 180 kick-up drives, so you can't complain about not having fins or pedals because you'll have them then. And then all of the species winners, so the striped bass, fluke, and bluefish, they're all going home with new fish finders, new paddles, all kinds of good stuff for them. And then on top of that, we do a huge raffle which benefits Save the River, Save the Hills, which is a local charity which prevents land development near our marina, helps keep our waterway clean and pristine. And then we're also doing a food drive along with that as well that will benefit the Shoreline Soup Kitchen. And all those raffle tickets goes towards prizes that we do. $55 entry fee. Register through Fishing Chaos. It gets you a captain's bag, long sleeve performance T-shirt, automatic entry into $1,000 skin for your kayak that will be customized for the trifecta. Everybody gets one entry and one entry only. Only stipulation is you have to be at the banquet to win it. Yep. But it'll be designed for your kayak, and if they don't have a template for your kayak, the $1,000 either goes towards creating a template for your kayak, or you can have it for your truck or your trailer or anything like that, which is awesome. And then we have the banquet as well, so we'll have food and everything at the end.
The value in that trifecta entry, like what you're getting out of it, is insane. People are crazy if they're not signing up for this. And this is a great way to kind of introduce yourself to saltwater kayak fishing if you haven't done it yet. If you normally fish freshwater, like get out there and give this a go. This actually would be a whole lot of fun. I mean, Sean and I are going to be there off and on the entire weekend, doing all kinds of stuff. I'll be there, for the banquet. I'll be there on Saturday. Sean's going to be there earlier on Friday. So we're going to be all over the place. Really looking forward to it. And this is like, if you're one of our listeners and you're just looking for something awesome to do to change up what you do for fishing, the entry fee, and what you're getting out of it, that bag alone, the swag bag alone, is insanity. Yeah, trust me.
Yeah, the bag itself is like a $25 value just for the legitimate bag, not the stuff that's inside it, but the bag itself. And then you get a long sleeve performance T-shirt on top of it. So the two of them together pretty much cover your entry fee. Yep. One thing to note, the tournament, yes, it's 3 days. It doesn't stop in between those 3 days. So you can fish all night long. So it's crazy. It's it's like 42 hours straight of fishing. It's awesome.
That's crazy.
It's completely different than a lot of other tournaments. So.
Yep. And artificial bait only, correct?
Yes, artificials only. So the new rule change this year makes it a little bit more competitive.
Oh yeah.
So it'll definitely change things up a lot. So we got a bunch of people who never fished the tournament before. We've got a bunch of people who've never even fished saltwater before. They're coming down to fish it this year. So if you're hesitant, you've never done it before, there's a bunch of other people in it. Get in touch with us. We'll kind of set you up with some, even if you don't have a rod and reel, we can give you some recommendations on where to get started, and we'll go from there. I mean, we're happy to help get people introduced to it. It's a completely different experience than anything else.
I can attest to that, Deryk, because you and Nelson were both my two go-tos on starting a whole saltwater setup, and I went to you first, and then you said, get this, get that, get this, get that. I did. And then I said, Nelson, this is what Deryk told me to do. And he's like, exactly. You guys, he's dead on.
He's got it spot on.
Yep. Now, one question I do have. Do you want to, just because this is Jigs and Bigs, right? We're food and coffee centric. Do you want to mention anything about coffee?
Yeah.
Any products?
Any coffee?
So we are, by the time this comes out, it should be up on our website. We have created our own line of coffee. So we have 3 different blends that are coming out. We have a dark roast, which is called Topwater Blow Up. We
Delicious.
have a medium roast, which is called Oswegatchie Blend, which is the road that our store is located on. And then we have a decaf that is called Sunset Paddle. So all 3 of those, they're locally roasted. They're going to be whole beans, so we're not going to offer any pre-ground, but that helps increase the freshness of them. We order our coffee, it's roasted that week, and we pick it up at the beginning of the next week. So this is as fresh a coffee as you could possibly get. It'll be up on our website by the time this episode drops. So it's awesome. It tastes really good. You guys got to sample it the other day when you came down to the store, and I don't know, we've had it now for probably 2 weeks, and everybody's drinking it every day. So
that's awesome. I had the Topwater Blow Up, and it was fantastic. And I am, in the Hookset Hoodlums Pro Staff chat, I'm known as the coffee snob. So that says something. It gets my seal of approval.
And it's all organic too.
Sold.
Love it. Yeah, I had the decaf because I think we sampled it mid-afternoon, and that's decaf time for me, and it was smooth, man. I loved it. It was really good.
I love it. I'm drinking coffee stout right now.
All
I
right.
got problems. I got to shut myself off. Oh, Bill, what's Hookset Hoodlums has some stuff coming this summer, right? I believe a new worm.
By the time this comes out, hooksethoodlums.com. We got galaxy worms, wild worms, dreamer worms. We got a new frogfish and topwater t-shirt, a new summer t-shirt, a new Born to Fish Full Metal Jacket themed tank top for 4th of July, hopefully, and a whole bunch of new stuff, and everything that we have, as always, available at Old Glory Outdoors as well.
Of course.
And don't forget, you can now DM Jigs and Bigs as they are accepting pro staff members.
Of course. We'll get into those details shortly, but I'll tell you.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's good
New
stuff.
baits, new collaborations, working on some other stuff with Damien over at Stretch and Lines.
Yep.
We got 3 or 4 new shirts that should be out by the time this comes out.
And you guys have you restocked a bunch of shirts too, and you even have like
Vice and Classic, yeah,
Husky Boy sizes, which I like. That's very, very good.
We up the sizes. We're gonna phase some of the other ones out, but we did re-up the Classics and the Vice and some summertime lighter colors and stuff.
I got to get into that shirt this year. It seems like
Wait till
I
you
got to
see
try and get. You know what? I should rock that in Vegas.
Oh,
when this one drops,
when do
I
you
should
leave?
rock this in Vegas. I leave next Sunday.
So there's and I know that you could do it, and I know you would do it.
Mhm.
I showed Joe today the pink shut up and fish, line it,
dude,
grip it, throw it or something. It's awesome.
That would be a great.
Hopefully
pool
I get
shirt
to you
right
before
there.
you get to Vegas.
At the Sahara. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
love it.
It's gonna be. They're gonna think you're for sale out there.
Everything's for sale in Vegas. If the price is right.
Yeah. Hooksethoodlums.com. Subscribe to YouTube. We might have Sean eating some bull testes on there soon enough.
What's this mite shit?
Oh, it's definitely it's going to be a buffet. That's the plan. It's going to be a buffet. I told you guys I bought a fryer just for this,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to be good. It's going to be
Careful,
good.
Joe's getting hungry.
Guys, I think that's about going to do it for this episode. Thanks for checking this out. Shoot us a little bit of feedback. You know what we'd really love is if you told your friends about Jigs and Bigs. If you enjoy this podcast, despite Sean's freaking potty mouth, please go ahead and share this wealth of fishing quality content, long form podcast content with your friends. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and give us a rating. Make sure you subscribe so you get all of the information when these drop. I want to throw this out there. There is a brand new feature in Spotify that reminds me a lot of Clubhouse. I'm not sure if many people are aware of like Clubhouse, the social media platform. It's a little bit unique, but Spotify launched something recently and it kind of revamped things a little bit called Green Room. And I am planning on some future Green Room chats that will run live that you can jump into. They'll be with me and with Sean. We're going to be having these conversations live. They're going to end up dumping as additional podcast segments as well. These are going to be like when we're on the road, not in studio, things like that. I may, I'm not going to make any promises because it is Las Vegas, but I might just do one while I'm in Vegas just for shits and giggles. Who knows?
That's awesome.
Good stuff, guys. Have yourselves a great one, everybody. Thanks to everybody listening. Thanks to you guys for being a part of this conversation. I really appreciate you guys jumping on this. This is really, really fantastic. We all know that we've got the best listeners and supporters out there, so we thank you more than anything. Take good care, everybody. Make sure to get out there and crank some fish. We will see you soon. See you in 7 days, guys. Tight live.
Hey, everybody. We're here with this week's Fuck This Guy segment. And, Bobby, right off the bat, we should go with what Paul did. Paul just gave us that artwork of what he did. This is his voice saying, fuck that guy.
Yep.
Why don't we call it Fuck That Guy segment? So let's change it. Let's make it, let's conform to Paul's verbiage. What do you think about that?
I like that. I'm gonna go ahead and reword this now in the tag editor.
Fuck
so
that
that it
guy.
says fuck that guy.
Why are we saying fuck this guy when Paul has spoken out and said, guys, no. Fuck
It's officially
that guy.
changed. Fuck that guy. And the
fuck
nice thing
that
is
guy.
hashtag FTG still
Doesn't
stays.
change.
Yep.
We're good. So we're here still recording with Deryk and with Bill and with Joe, continuing our conversation. And they said they wanted to be a part of this because Joe and Bobby got to see my candidate for fuck this guy when we were out on the Connecticut River this morning. So Andrew from Hookset Hoodlums had apparently gotten to the river at, 0 dark 30 to pre-fish because he took it seriously, which is good. We got there a little later. I slept in. We got there at 9 o'clock ish. Bill's shaking his head. What?
He didn't take it seriously. He doesn't listen. He texted me at 5:17 a.m. and said, "What time are you leaving?" After I told him 1,000 times at 9:30. But whatever.
So, as we talked about, luck. That's where it comes in. But when I got to the ramp, it was starting to get a little crowded. Joe and Bobby were already in Joe's boat, tied off to the dock that's at the ramp. And I threw my kayak in, and it was starting really to pick up. So I moved my kayak as quickly as I could. It's a 2-lane ramp. I got out of there. A bass boat came in after me, and I was over in an area where apparently I didn't know this. Larger boats will pull up and beach themselves. It's a sand bottom, so that if someone needs to go lock their car up or do whatever, their boat's there and they're not in the way of the ramp. Well, I was over there, and this gentleman pulled into the bass boat. I use gentleman loosely because he's, fuck that guy. And he stared at me, and I stared back at him, and I said, "You need me to move? What's going on? What's up?" He's like, yeah. I said, "Well, look, man, why don't you go to the dock? I'll go here." I didn't know that he was trying to pull in on the sand. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
So he shot me a dirty look, and he pulled over to the other side of the dock with Bobby and Joe, and I realized, oh shit, there was sand. He was trying to get there. So I just quietly moved out. Where he pulled up next to that dock, and the sand was probably about 100 feet, maybe.
Oh, from where he pulled
tops.
up by the dock? Yeah. It was probably about 50, 75 feet.
Yeah.
Wasn't that long.
When he saw me move away from that and go across the river, which was really thin at that point, or really, not shallow, really a thinner part of the river. It wasn't as wide.
Yep.
That 75 feet, he stared at me and opened up his throttle to go 75 feet just to be an asshole and make waves. And I thought Delirious had said something to him about the waves and being a dick. I was wrong. Delirious didn't even notice, but there's my candidate for fuck that guy, because I didn't know. He didn't ask anything. He didn't say, "Hey man, I'm trying to beach there." If he said that, I would have moved him. Like, "Oh shit, sorry, my bad. I didn't know."
Yeah,
Got out of the
exactly.
way. No, instead he decided to make a bunch of waves, be a prick, and to quote our guy Paul, fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy for real.
Yeah.
It's funny because the last week's show we talked about how I was the guy who should have been fucked because I fucked it up. I was encroaching on this one guy's spot who was fishing, and I didn't see his lines. I actually needed him to tell me he was fishing in that spot because I couldn't see what the hell was going on. And it is what it is. So it's like, ultimately, I think in that situation, it all gets down to communication.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You shoot somebody a look, and they're like, whatever.
I'm not fucking Professor X. I can't read his mind.
Exactly.
I didn't know that he wanted to pull in there. I'm just sitting there I was trying to get out of the way of the other boats coming in, which I succeeded in doing, but I was now in the way of that guy and his boat.
Exactly.
So I tried. I don't know. I can't read minds. So fuck that guy and his
You
waves.
guys want to hear real quick non-fishing fuck that guy? I was the fuck that guy today after we went fishing.
Oh, no.
So I'm all tired, burnt out. I had to go to the grocery store after, and I'm grabbing vegetables. And little did I know, I'm walking away with some older lady's cart with like her purse and everything in it.
Oh
like
no!
I went down like three. She's like, excuse me. So So I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. So I go back to, now I'm in the meat section. I grab what I need, whatever.
Yep.
I fucking do it again with somebody else's.
No.
It was the most, and here's the worst part. That older lady was right there and saw me grab somebody else's cart again.
She's like, he's a thief.
He's a bitch. He's a son of a bitch.
He's
Joe,
unvaccinated.
Doesn't stealing shit feel really good, Joe?
Thank God she didn't, because her purse and everything was in there. So I was like, oh my God. Then I was
Poor
like,
lady.
am I getting Alzheimer's or something? Like,
Yeah,
what
what's
is wrong with me
Why are you
right
doing
now? I don't know.
Oh, that is freaking hilarious.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy, Joe.
So the real takeaway is that is there an advantage to, having a pedal kayak or a power kayak? Potentially, but ultimately don't steal some old lady's purse at the grocery store. That's really, that's the big story. Experience is what matters. Don't have that experience.
Yeah. Jeez.
Anything you're going to take from this podcast, let it be that.
Let it be that one thing, yeah. No, I can
They're
appreciate
just coming
that.
outside of their homes again, and you're.
Could you imagine? She's like, I haven't been to the grocery store in 14 months.
Things have changed out there, Herbert.
I have so many expired coupons. Why is this man running away with my cart?
Now she's self-quarantining and wearing a mask.
I just wanted to make a bologna salad. What the hell?
He had a magnet stuck to his bicep.
He had handfuls of vegetables and meat.
Why does one man need so many eggplants? What was that about? Off the
I'm glad we
rails?
stayed on for the fuck that guy segment.
Oh, wow.
You're
That was
sick, Joe.
fantastic.
So you get to the counter with 2 old ladies' purses, a bunch of vegetables, your meat, and what? KY? I mean,
He's getting ready for his trip to Maryland.
The crazy part is I had one of the carts I took in one hand and I was pulling the other one. And all of a sudden I had 2 carts.
Oh, are these yours?
yelling to the cashier, I need a carton of Newports.
God. That is... Wow, fuck that guy. Wow.
Yeah.
That guy.
Good stuff. All right, gentlemen. Well, that was Jigs and Bigs for this week. Good Lord. Have a good one, everybody. Take good care. See ya.